setting, don't trust your hearing. You made a monster, I'm your imposter. Go ahead and wander, but don't trust the water.
Well, hello everyone and welcome to Imola for race meeting number 6 of the World Touring Car Series here on RaceSpotTV. My name's Conor Maddock. I'm joined this time by the ever wonderful Chaz Draycott. Chaz, first time on the Touring Car Series, I believe. Welcome, and well, you're certainly no stranger to World GT and to well, the whole organisation, but first time on one of these ones.
Yeah, definitely. I've watched a few of the World Touring Car Series broadcasts, and it's frantic, frenetic touring car racing as you'd expect. And, you know, I know the guys that organise this and have done for years. Used to be on the admin board of it myself, and, like you say, no stranger to it. So I'm excited to see exactly what it's like from up here in the booth this evening, or down here in the booth on the ground floor of my house. But to be honest with you, it's just a hell of a wonderful thing to commentate on, is touring car racing. It's my favourite discipline. It's always exciting to watch, and it's actually my second TCR broadcast this week. So I've had a really, really good week so far.
Well, there we go. It's well prepared you for what we have going on today here in the World Touring Car Series. But without further ado, let's just have a quick look at what's to come. We've got well, Slap Plowing in the middle of the season here. Round number 6 at Imola. Then, well, after this one, in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be heading to Detroit Belle Isle for our street circuit race for this season, which is going to be very, very interesting indeed. Then we head back across the ponds to the Silverstone International layout for bouncing across back to the US for Road Atlanta, then Mount Panorama. Then, of course, we have Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and our season finale will take place on the 3rd of November at the one, the only Fuji Speedway. So lots of fantastic circuits yet to come here in this one, Chaz. But we head to Imola for this particular week's worth of action, and it is a fantastic circuit. Yes, it's gone through many, many, many changes over the years, but its current iteration, I would say, is pretty good going.
Oh, definitely. You know, there's so many huge challenges around here. The first chicane is just an absolute nightmare in a lot of cars. You've got to manage the weight transfer so well. But it really is a difficult circuit that looks quite simple on paper. You don't actually get to see the elevation changes when you see a flat map of this place. Obviously, down into Acqua Minerale, up the hill towards Variante Alta, can be such a big challenge. Tosa in itself, especially in a front-wheel drive touring car, really difficult to get away from there. I've been lucky enough to visit Imola a couple of times, and even the facilities around this circuit, the gorgeous views and the amazing scenery, it all adds up to be one legendary place to go racing.
It absolutely is. And, well, let's just have a look at our standings coming into this race day. It is Corentin Guinness at the very top of the order. That is certainly no change compared to the last couple of weeks. He is starting to run away with things now in that DKC by SimRC Maniti car. Then we've got ourselves Ross McFarlane in second place for the Pure Sims outfit on 650 points. Then Kieran Harrison in third. Steen Ledger in fourth, with Jamie Rushworth in P5. Savidovic, Stolzenberg, Butler, Freitas, and Blackhall round out the top 10 spots. Chaz, well, the lead in the pro class is getting away, but certainly a big challenge going on for second place. Here's the AM standings, though. Stephen Daly currently heading that one up much closer than what the pro standings are, at least for the lead of that championship, with Benjamin Gregory with a fantastic points haul last time out at Phillip Island, getting himself ahead of Stefan Schlacker for second.
Yeah, Ben Gregory winning all 3 races in the AM class at Phillip Island. Very important. And before that race weekend, or well, race evening as we say, he hadn't actually won a race in the AM class all season. So it was exactly what he needed to do. And it was like that first one just spurred him on. We've got Mark Johnston in 4th position ahead of Lee Berridge. There's quite a gap between them guys and then Mr. Tompkins, of course, behind them. Matt Bunn in 7th position is next up. Bunny's won a couple of races so far in the AM class this season. And then behind him, of course, we have Dan Martin in 8th position. Paul Smith down in 9th, and then Scott Malcolm in 10th position. It's still very close, though, down there. And, I mean, all it takes is one race meeting to go somebody's way or someone to have a bad one, and that can all flip around very quickly, can't it?
Yep, it absolutely can. And, well, we've still got half the season to go at this point as well. Let's have a look at the team standings. That is looking relatively close between the top 2, actually. We've got DKC by SimRC heading up the field. That is to be expected considering Quentin Guinez is leading the championship. But the effort that the Pure Sims guys have been able to put in with their solid finishes amongst all of their drivers means that they're still in contention for this team's championship, at least for their Pure Sims esports car. The Pure Sims SimLab car, well, just over 500 points behind there. It's going to take a bit of work for them to get themselves back up to try and challenge those top 2 spots in the latter part of the season, but certainly don't count them out. But it is going to be Pure Sims Esports versus SimRC going at it for the second half of the season.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, a lot of teams and drivers, they put pressure on themselves when you get to the halfway point of a championship, because it's a real moment of reflection to look back at how it's gone so far, what you could potentially change going forward, and everybody's had long enough now to establish who their rivals will be in certain elements of this championship. Some drivers and teams will know that they might not be as fast as other drivers around them in the first race of the night, and we may always get a repeat winner. We see that in real world championships as well. But then, of course, you've got the second and third races, you've got reverse grids to factor in as well, where it's not all a grid sorted by merit, so drivers can have their ups and downs in those races. And that's why we love this sort of championship, because it's always mixed up. You get many different winners from different races. I mean, so far this season, we've had, in terms of overall race winners, we've already had 8 of them. Corentin Guinez already having 6 races. Nobody else has got more than 2. But it's just amazing to see so many winners in the AM class as well. I mean, so far we've got 8 in that as well. We've got Mr. Daly and Gregory winning 3 apiece at the moment, tied for the most race victories in their class. But it's anybody's game in touring car racing, and that's why I absolutely love it.
Yep, and the reverse grids that this series has certainly helps with that as well. If you're unfamiliar with the series, well, we'll have 3 20-minute races here today. We're seeing the very end of qualifying going on at the moment, so the last laps for your drivers are starting to come through. Our race number 1 will be set based off of grid will be set based off of this qualifying. Then we head into race 2, where we'll have a random reverse grid, and then we'll head into race 3, which is another random reverse grid, and we'll do the we'll spin the wheel and pick the number once we're done with each and every race here. So that's the situation. So checkered flag out in qualifying at the moment. Quentin Guinez provisional pole position as Nathan Armes in second place. Armes, well, he attempted to make a big statement at Phillip Island with his first race of the season, but it didn't exactly go his way despite the good qualifying performance. He'll be looking to keep it on the grey stuff this time around. Lots of other drivers yet to complete their laps here. There's the number 48 car of Rob Turner, just heading his way down towards Toaster at the moment. Bram Van Putten ahead of him.
Yeah, Rob currently second in the AM class at the moment. Dan Martin 8th overall and leading the AM guys at present. He's done a fantastic time there, 154.543, and there's mere thousandths of a second between almost every car at the moment. There's barely anybody that's separated by more than a tenth. I mean, there's only 7 thousandths between Jürgen Frank and Jason Landry inside the top 5.
Does look like the session is now drawing to a close, however, so no one else will be able to improve on their qualifying times for the first race this evening at Imola. Let's take a look then at your starting grid. for this particular race meeting. Quentin Guinez there up on pole position. It's a SimRC front row lockout as well, with Nathan Ahmed in the number 36 in second. SimRC P1 through 3 actually, as you look to Jürgen Frank, who starts in that third spot. Jason Landry with a good qualifying session starts in fourth, with Ross McFarlane in fifth and Bram van Putten rounding out the top 6 cars. Morgan Butler in 7th, with Daniel Martin in P8 as the top qualified AM driver. Then you've got Wojciech Svidovic in P9 with Esteban Rodriguez in P10. Jake Blackhall and Rob Turner will round out the top 12 cars. Jamie Rushworth will be 13th on the starting group, with then a gaggle of RD SimSport cars. James Holman, Neil Ferrier and Stephen Daly all grouped together. Then we've got Benjamin Gregory there in 17th place. We've got Sam Smith starting in 18th. Mark Johnson, Nick Clibbans, Harry Fox and Dominic Kortum finishing off the top 22. Damien Owen Harris will start 23rd, with Dan Blackwell rounding out 24th. And then Scott Malcolm, Ollie Marler, Rob Sutherland, Neil Stevenson, Michael Blake and Carl Johnson, bringing things down to our top 30 starters. We got to continue on though. It is a relatively big grid. Steen Ledger 31st, with Konstantin Stolzenberg in 32nd. Lloyd Rabia, Pete Newman, Jaroslav Sebula and Rafael Draj there 39th. And we keep going. Adam Watson, Anders Ankersen, Craig Williams, Alex Torres, Stefan Schlacker and John Roberts. And then just one more pace for good measure, Sean Gardner rounding out the 43-car starting grid here today. You got 20 seconds to give me your pre-race thoughts, Jazz, because of that grid.
Oh, Corentin Guinez always looks good. I've commentated on him a lot before, and he's very fast. For the other 4 guys behind him, though, I can only account for one, and that is Ross McFarlane, reigning champion. I think he's going to have his work cut out here based on how many of those top few guys are all in the same team.
Race meeting number 6 of the World Touring Car Series about to get itself underway from Imola. Corentin Guinez on that pole position as we launch our way down in towards turn number 1. Guinez has gotten himself a very, very good start here. Ahmed slotting in behind single file for the top, basically 10 cars at the moment. A couple of signs of trying to head their way down towards the inside. Svidovic trying to go side by side with an RD SimSports car in the background there. That was Dan Martin. And Svidovic has been able to gain at that position there. A very calm affair at the very, very front of the field. However, still bits of 2x2 going on deeper in the pack as we head down towards Tamburello for the first time. Snaking their way through there, the sweeping apexes, the sweeping corners before you hit the brakes now in towards turn 7 at Tosa. Very big overtaking opportunity coming down into there, and that's what Ross McFarlane is trying to attempt on Jason Landry.
We've got a car sideways a bit further down the order as well, and looks like maybe a little bit of damage as one of the Velosters goes off on the right-hand side on the way out of Tosa. There are many, many opportunities down on the inside into there, especially if you get a good run out of the Villeneuve chicane. Looks like everybody's recovered, though, nice and cleanly and managed to continue on from there, but it's one of them corners, like I say, where there's a real pinch point. There's a lot of different lines you can take, and here's another one. Aqua Minerale Civic goes flying off to the right of our shot, off to the left-hand side of the circuit, and there's one of the Elantris was also off. Looks like Jason Landry's lost a few places in all of that as well. Just trying to see who went down. Dominic Kortum has disappeared down the order.
Yep, indeed he has, and in fact I think he's taken the tow back to pit lane. Side-by-side battle with Sam Smith. There might have just been some inadvertent contact into Aqua Minerale. Looked like a big impact for Dominic Kortum, which is why he decided to take the tow back because of the significant damage to the front end of that car. Coming towards the end of the lap then, through the two Ravazzas right at the back end of the lap before you hit the throttle all the way down the pit straight to complete lap number 1. Things relatively clean at the front of the field, although Jason Landry did have a bit of an issue getting himself down into Aqua Minerale, pushing wide. He had to serve a slowdown penalty. He's fallen back through the order, was 5th, now in 10th.
4 SimRC cars at the front of the order. Corentin Guinez leading the way. Then it's Nathan Ames, Jürgen Frank and Bram van Putten. Ross McFarlane is the first guy to go chasing after him. There's number 70 machine of Daniel Martin. He's having a nice little scrap at the moment with Rob Turner in the number 48 car. He is actually battling for the AM class lead here. There's a bit of argy-bargy going on in the background. Look like one of the Pure Sims cars potentially going off the road as well. I think that's Ben Gregory involved in that fight, is it not? In the boosted machine, tries to get around the outside on the exit of the Villeneuve chicane. A little bit of a touch there as well as we look at the number 53 of Damien Owen Harris. I've watched Damien in TCR cars before. He's a very feisty racer. He's got a bit of a kiss from the rear there by the sounds of it and the way that the camera moved. Ben Gregory slots just in front there of the car to his right hand side. Here's Harry Fox's view of all of this going on a little bit further back. He's thinking surely this has got to come to a head as we go up to the top of the hill. James Holman now looking forward at all of the shenanigans going on ahead of him. This is fantastic touring car racing. Everybody doesn't want to give a single inch here. This one, Connery, but this is fantastic, clean stuff for the moment.
Indeed it is. Oh, someone's across the apex. Boom!
Oh.
My word, Harry Fox completely skipping across Acqua Minerale, and James Holman, the innocent bystander in that one. I have to wonder what caused Harry Fox to get that so catastrophically wrong. Keeping it with the light of pictures, though, in towards that Variante Alta. Bits of side-by-side action, then gets strung out, single file coming off the corner. This is Harry Fox and Pete Newman here at the moment, as Newman looking to try and gain some ground here on the way in towards Ravazza. Going to try and angle it towards the inside. He's a little too far back to make that one work, though, as it seems like we've also had a problem for Imola. He's taking the toe back to pit lane as well.
To be honest with you there, I'm surprised Harry didn't shout Fox too. He fired it that hard across the apex of the corner. He absolutely flew in like a literal missile, just in the shape of a Hyundai Veloster. Lovely livery there. Reminds me of some sort of CSGO skin, to be honest with you, but it's a fantastic looking machine, and he's certainly kept it all tidy. And there you go. Look, the back end. Let's go. Fox 3 more like down the inside. Somehow they both got away with that. Now, when I mentioned I was commentating on TCR cars the other night, they seemed so fragile. There was drivers, Morgan Butler in particular, had tiny touches wheel to wheel, much like you'd see real world touring car racing, and the suspension was written off, and that was it, and the car was completely done for the race. That was a massive hit, and both of them have carried on here. Look at this assault by the Pure Sims cars. They're all over the machine in front of them, down the inside into Tosa. How's this going to work? Let's have a look.
Yeah, this is Mark Johnson trying to hang it around the outside of Jake Blackhall there. Blackhall's going to lose some ground up the hill slightly towards Ravazza, allows Johnson a little bit more breathing space, and, well, Johnson potentially could focus on the car ahead instead now, trying to get back past Dean Ledger. There's the tap. This caught him on the first lap.
Oh, my.
That's ugly.
Yeah, it was that wheel-to-wheel contact, wasn't it? Just flung him out to the side again. It's a realistic physic to have in iRacing, though, which is nice to see. There's smoke and dust everywhere up at Acqua Minerale. Yeah. Looks like there's a carbon off the road there. Now, is that... Just trying to see. That is Neil Ferrier, isn't it, that's been off. It's quite interesting for me to see Ferrier in a black and pink car. I mean, used to be Tom Ferrier used to race a black and almost pink Alfa Romeo in the British Touring Car Championship back in the early 2000s. So that seems like a bit of nostalgia in my mind in the RD SimSport machine. One of many Hyundais in the field. But one thing, again, that we need to focus on here, Connery, is the fact that in touring car racing like this, you may get little groups that all break out into individual battles. But in the bigger picture, they're just in one massive train. And as soon as you finish one battle, you could end up defending when you were attacking before, or vice versa.
Yeah, especially when there are, well, at the start of this race, 43 cars on circuit and everyone relatively close on pace. Is
sorry.
Car.
That's Blackhall losing it one way then the other, but the Veloster that was behind him went straight on at the chicane. That's a great save by Jake, to be fair. It was going on for about 3 to 5 working days. That was actually a couple of laps ago as well, as we saw them all fanning out. But my, oh my, very busy moment there for poor old Jake. I can imagine some of the words he would have been screaming at his screen, and they are not broadcastable. But still, the race continues and everyone keeps it safe.
Well, all I can say, Australian, right?
Yes.
More problems down into a braking zone. That's the number 13 with impact with the barrier as well. Yeah, that Nick Clibbons. I've seen a lot of that so far this race. The car more eager to swing its back end around under braking, off throttle. I mean, these cars have the tendency to do that anyway. It seems like it's been catching a lot more people out today.
Yeah, again, it's something that I'll hark back to from the other night's broadcast. Is I've not seen the TCR cars act this loose in a long time, and it seems like the update has made them a lot more livelier. I remember when the Audi RS3 LMS TCR first came to iRacing, and it felt like one of the most numb and dull cars to drive ever. But when you watch the racing, it was fantastic. These cars now, they seem so lively, and it's still fantastic racing. It's just that for the drivers themselves, they've got a lot more work to do to keep the car carrying its momentum, because as you and I both know, Connery, in front-wheel drive touring cars like this, if you do get that back end out, it's not always beneficial because it's not a rear-wheel drive machine. You get that horrible four-wheel drift and you lose all your momentum, and it understeers like a pig.
Yeah, indeed it does. We're running on board with the number 85, Steen Ledger. He has a bit of a train of cars ahead of him. Neil Ferrier, Damon Harris, Rob Turner are all further down the road. You can count Ben Gregory in that one as well. Steen Ledger just comfortable slipstreaming off of them for the moment. Does need to be a little bit closer though if he was to think about making any sort of move in towards Tamburello. He does close up on the brakes and, well, hopefully for Steen, he's going to continue to make forward progress in this race. He started 31st, now resides in 16th place, so it's been a good day already for Steen.
Yeah, fantastic work so far to make his way through the order like that. I'm sure, like you say, he's going to hope that that continues. We look here at reigning champion Ross McFarlane in the Pure Sims Esports Honda Civic Type R TCR with Bram Van Putten right in front of himself. Right in front of him, I should say. But he is putting that Hyundai exactly where he needs to right now to try and defend this position. I'm here all night. Bram Van Putten looking back then from the number 23 Veloster, which I still think is one of the weirdest looking cars I've ever seen. I still think it looks good from the front as well, though, to contradict myself. But that Civic looks angry and it looks very racy right now, and it always does with Ross McFarlane at the wheel. He is another driver that just knows when to attack, when to defend, and when to just hold back and just be patient with the situation and know what to do. Through Variante Alta they go. Lovely shot as they hop, skip and jump one way or the other. Then back down the hill towards Rivazza. Wojciech Svidovic in there as well. Fantastic to see him back on my screens again. I used to watch him back in the day in like 2015 when I first started watching iRacing broadcasts a long, long time ago. Multiple champion of the BSRTC back in the day. And he's a really lovely, funny bloke as well, but insanely competitive is Wojciech Svidovic. He's also got company in the form of Morgan Butler, very quick now. He's really improved over his day. Esteban Rodriguez and Jason Landry, and just behind.
This is a decent train right now for fourth place out there on circuit. Bram Van Putten's going to have his work cut out though, because Ross McFarlane certainly won't be one to just sit behind and take it. And you can see already the defensive lines being deployed by Bram Van Putten. Slightly different lines being taken through Tamburello there, and Van Putten getting loose a little bit off the corner, allows Ross McFarlane a bit of an overlap, and Van Putten with a heavy impact with the barriers, getting turned by McFarlane.
Well, there was a tiny overlap at the end of the day. I'm not really sure if Ross turned in a little bit early or whether Bram tried to come over to the right too far. We'll leave that one up to the stewards, but it's a shame to see it. Here's a replay. There is a bit of a tap there, and you can see, I don't know, from that angle, it looks like Bram continues to come over, but again, the final decision on that will be made by the stewards, I think. I can't imagine he'll be too happy about it, and to be honest, I don't think Ross will be happy about that one either, because none of these guys want battles to be finished like that, do they?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. At least in my feeling, Bram did start sliding across just that little bit too much. Just give McFarlane a bit of a lean. Yes, it's the done thing in these cars sometimes, but you're really playing with fire when you have such a negligible overlap that you're just going to get tagged around when you try and cover it off like that. But Rob Turner, we're looking at him at the moment, fourth place in AM, side by side through Variante Alta. That's not usually a place where you want to go side by side. That was in the battle with Steen Ledger there. But now, all of a sudden, Neil Ferrier has decided that he wants a piece of the action, and Steen Ledger's not safe here whatsoever either. So Ferrier's going to go deep on the brakes into the first Rivazza, gets disposed of Rob Turner, has an attempt at least at Ledger as the two teammates barge doors behind them. Not ideal. Let's keep it nice and calm between Turner and Stolzenberg. We don't need any team dramas.
No, we certainly don't. And obviously, Konstantin Stolzenberg is quite high up there in the championship at the moment. 7th overall as well for Team PGZ. So far this season, he's got 2 overall race wins, and they are the only times he's actually been on the podium outright as well. So he's shown that he's got the potential to do it, just he can't finish on the podium unless he wins the race. So he's trying his very best now to get past his teammate, but of course, the two of them are in separate classes, I should say. So he would expect Rob to get out of the way slightly, but then again, teamwork always doesn't play into each other's hands like that. We've seen many team battles before, haven't we, Connery, between us, I'm sure.
Indeed we have, and Jake Blackwell sending it down the inside. Or Turner forces that PGC car out into the grass. I don't think Turner would have really appreciated that, but Blackwell's on a little bit of a recovery drive at the moment. Started 11th, had issues earlier on, of course, dropped all the way back, and now he's caught up on this train of cars and has about 7 minutes to try and get through on as many of them as possible to recover a good points finish from this race. Here's a look at the 0-5 of Jason Landry, and well, he's also not had a fantastic day either. With his little slowdown penalty that he had in the early parts of this race. He's on the back of Esteban Rodriguez for 7th, catching him down the hill on the way into turn 17. The first Ravazza slinging it around the outside, so deep on the brakes there, but Rodriguez is able to respond.
Yeah, really good stuff by Rodriguez there to keep it nice and tight to the inside, to avoid any major contact and to hold the position and to get the run on the exit. That's really tough stuff, to be fair. Looks like Jason Landry's in some sort of hire car, doesn't it? Like his car's not quite been working this week. It's the T car as such, isn't it? Like we used to have back in the day of F1. Well, still, it's going well, I'm sure. The matte paint is making it nice and slippery down the start-finish straight towards Tamburello. They're all so close to the white line on the right-hand side there. They're definitely braver than I am. Every time I ever get on the brakes into there, I just do not trust myself to get close enough to that line. Well, Ferrier's got too close for it. So too is Konstantin Stolzenberg. I'll get his name right one day. But Neil Ferrier definitely moved around a little bit on the brakes. And, oh, that's a poor rejoin, to be fair. And he's hit 2 other cars. He didn't need to get back on at the apex, and I think he's ruined a few other people's evenings as well.
Well, not quite evenings. We've got 2 more races.
Well, yeah. I should.
Yeah. It's always sketchy down in towards the braking zone for Tamburello because you have that slight left-hand kink. Basically, that's still, you know, you're braking. In these cars, you're braking before that left-hand kink. Oh. So, and, you know, yeah, it's not a great rejoin, is it? But in these cars, and in many cars, you want to brake it in as straight a line as possible. And a straight line through a slight kink, obviously, is going to mean that you go to one side of the circuit or the other, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you drive one of these TCR cars and you're driving in a straight line and you slam on the brakes, it will go right or left. It will not stay in a straight line. They really do like to wrangle themselves around going into a corner. It's just a real shame that, oh, well, a big contact there. That's the number 27 machine getting thrown off the road. That was Sam Smith. But it is a real shame when you do see that just that tiny little movement one way or another on the brakes can cause such a big incident, and you never have a small accident down there into Tamburello. But the rejoin, unfortunately, left a lot to be desired, and I can only apologise, Connery, for not being able to hold in my reaction and my horrendous noises. But still, the race goes on without them, and a few others as well that got involved in that one. We look here at the 221 car, which is right in the thick of the action as well. That is Harry Fox. He's looking now down the inside into Ravazza. Nothing doing there, though. He's got the Hyundai of Carl Johnston in front of him. And again, look, as soon as he attacks or thinks about attacking, he then has to defend again because it goes one way then the other. And, oh, Fox 2 into the pit.
Yeah, I wonder if that's damage related because remember his incident heading across the apex of Acqua Minerale. Yeah. So I think it is yeah, we're getting word from our producer, yeah, it's damage repair. They do have a fast repair in this series, so you can just take it as basically a stop-and-go penalty as he gets the new car and rejoins back out onto circuits. He will be quite far down the order, though, 34th at the moment. Might drop even further, but yeah, not ideal. There's Craig Williams in the Craig Setup Shop Audi, the only Audi in this field, and Craig's done a fantastic job at getting that Audi to places where it perhaps shouldn't be on first look, and he's now battling with Dan Blackwell as they climb the hill towards Muratella.
Yeah, it's very, very close between the two of them, nearly kissing wing mirrors on the way in. He's going to try and go around the outside. There's a bit of a tap, but it actually helps him in a way, helps him over-rotate the car halfway through the corner. The number 14 machine down is inside. Just about holds on and gives the room as well. Side by side into Acqua Minerale. He's down the inside on the brakes. Lovely respect and great space given. And that was fantastic racing between the two of them there. Dan Blackwell now drops back one position. But you're right, Craig Williams is really doing that Audi some justice right now. It's great to see it being competitive, and if anybody can get a setup sorted for it, it's going to be Craig and his team as well. Audi have actually released the new version of their RS3 LMS TCR this year. I was lucky enough, funnily, to see it actually at Imola earlier in the season, and it is a gorgeous looking race car. They've gone back again with the reverse swan neck wing supports, so they come over the back of the rear wing, and it's got a much more aggressive front end, as if it could be. Here's another battle. This is Wojciech Savidovic and Ross McFarlane, who make contact in the second part of Tamburello, and somehow they both stay on the road there, Connery. That was a bit of a miracle of front-wheel drive performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and McFarlane still has an overlap here. He can attempt around the outside at Villeneuve. Savidovic is wise to it, though. Swings it back around the outside a second. Apex, and oh, he's so sketchy because he dipped 2 tires into the dirt and the car was fishtailing around all over the place. McFarlane, though, applying so much pressure to the rear bumper of that number 80 car. It's going to be a pretty exciting final 2 minutes if these guys are going to go at it. And don't count Morgan Butler out of this one either. Savidovic holding on at the moment to a 4th place finish, but it's going to be under threat now for the remaining time that we have left.
And for sure, it is going to be absolutely gloves off now. Ross McFarlane will be frustrated for losing the position, but he'll want to push as hard as he can. And now Wojciech Savidovic is through. He's going to want to push as well. And you see there, he just pushes a little bit too hard through Aqua Minerale. Ross tries to get to the right-hand side, then dives to the left, goes later on the brakes. Wojciech manages to hold on into Variante Alta. And like you said, behind Morgan Butler, right up there at the moment. Fantastic stuff to see Morgan doing so well. He's a good friend of mine, and he used to languish a bit further down the order in GT championships and all sorts. But honestly, it is really refreshing to see him 6th overall in this race. He's won a race outright this season as well, the 3rd race of the championship, but he's got even his teammate as well, Esteban Rodriguez, there as a rear gunner right behind him. This is a great little train of cars, this.
Yeah, I remember Morgan going in for one of his first interviews, and he said, yeah, I didn't really expect to be finishing this high in this series. So it came as a surprise to him as well, and it wasn't a fluke from the first couple of weekends either. He's been consistently up there, which is fantastic to see. But McFarlane's going to have another attempt here at Savidovic. Look how powerful that toe is here in these TCR cars. McFarlane to the outside of Tamburello. Savidovic has covered that off very, very well. It's all about now the exit onto this little short shoot between Tamburello and Villeneuve to try and keep the threat behind. Savidovic a little bit slower again in that instance, allows McFarlane another attempt, but Savidovic holding strong at the moment. The defensive lines have been working out rather well, and there's no move to the inside available for McFarlane into Tosa either, as, well, we'll get the time expired and the confirmation that this is indeed the final lap.
Is indeed, and it's actually quite a long lap here at Imola. When you see it on paper, you don't think it's going to take that long to get around here. It looks like quite a simple circuit, but nearly 1 minute 55 seconds, and it actually is 1 minute 55 for most of the drivers out there, actually. But around the left-hander up at Piratella goes Wojciech Savidovic. Let's not forget, this isn't the battle for the lead either. There's 3 Sim RC cars way off over the horizon ahead of these guys. There's one of them up there, look, the lesser spotted Sim RC. Corentin Guinez leads the way, Nathan Ames is in 2nd place, then Jürgen Frank is in 3rd, and then this lot are trying to just be best of the rest, effectively. It's been a great battle all the way through, though, and there's only a couple of corners left to decide it now, Connery. This is going to be a great finale.
There is. What's the opportunity going to be like in towards Piratella? Those front 2 cars already negotiating those apexes. To the line comes Corentin Guinez for yet another race win this season. Armez will be close, but no cigar. But the SimRC teammates are not going to complain about the situation. It's a 1-2-3 for them. Savidovic leads the pack for P4 out of the final corner and is able to keep that on lockdown. Ross McFarlane comes home P5. That's exactly where he started. Morgan Butler home in a safe 6th place as well. Further back, you have Dan Martin. Dan Martin comes across the line to win in the AM class. He did a little bit of a celebration across the line. Fantastic work from the number 70, as there he is, flashing of the lights. A job well done.
Yeah, that's his 3rd AM win of the season, and that's only the 4th time he's actually been on the AM podium this season as well. Stephen Daly gets his 5th AM podium of the season, and then Ben Gregory is now tied with Stefan Schlacker for the most podiums in the AM class with 8 come the end of that one. Sam Smith back into the pits, unfortunately, at the very end of this one. And we're now going to see Harry Fox come around the final corner. He somehow managed to drag that Veloster to the end of the race.
Yeah, and, keeps it on the leading lap as well. Good to see. Across the line he comes. Start-finish line relatively far down the pit straight here at Imola, so that'll be interesting in case we get a close moment coming out of the final corner on a final lap in the next 2 races. But let's have a look at, well, who's going to be reverse grid pole position for race number 2. We've had characteristically quite low reverse grids so far this season, so let's see if there'll be any change here in this one. There is 18. It might look like we'll get another low reverse grid here. 14, yeah, 14 is going to be our our reverse grid here today. Not the lowest reverse grid that we have, that's 12, but still relatively low. Number 14 is going to be Benjamin Gregory. Will be our reverse grid pole position sitter for race 2. But let's have a look at the unofficial race results from race 1. Quentin Guinez, by just about a tenth of a second, takes the race win for SimRC. Then we've got 2 other SimRC guys. We've got Nathan Armas and Jürgen Frank rounding out the podium spots. Wojtek Swidovic in P4 with Ross McFarlane P5, Morgan Butler P6 with Rodriguez, and Landry rounding out the top 8. Daniel Martin takes the AM class win for RD Sim Sports number 2 in the number 70 car. Damien Owen Harris rounds out the top 10 overall. And we've got Stephen Daly second in AM. We've got Steen Ledger in 12th place overall with Konstantin Stolzenberg in 13th. Benjamin Gregory, podium finish in AM is still good for his points haul and his continued good fortune in the past couple of weeks. Rob Turner, 15th overall. Mark Johnson in 16th with Pete Newman, Jake Blackwell, Luke Rabia, and Craig Williams running out the top 20. And then we've got Alex Torres in 21st with Blackwell in 22nd. Anders Ankerson in 23rd with Scott Malcolm, Neil Stevenson, Michael Blake, Sean Gardner, James Holman, Rob Sutherland, and John Roberts at the end of the top 30. We've got down to P40, we've got Sam Smith, Raphael Draj, Harry Fox, Carl Johnson, Nick Clibbons, Jamie Rushworth, Adam Watson, Stefan Schlacker. Not a fantastic race for Schlacker, unfortunately for him. We've got Neil Ferrier and Jaroslav Sebula running at the top 40. Then we've got those other retirements, Bram Van Putten going out early on in the event, Ollie Mahler and Dominic Autumn, with a particularly heavy impact down at Aqua Minerale. So
yeah,
that is, yeah, it was. So that's race number 1 done with. We'll get ourselves our servers all set for race number 2 with the reverse grids, P14 reverse grid. So Benjamin Gregory will be our reverse grid pole position sitter here, Chaz. It was a relatively, I would say, at least at the very front of the field, a relatively calm race number 1. But we've got this reverse grid factoring in now. This is where the excitement starts to build up a little bit more.
Yeah, it gets a little bit more frantic from this point now because you throw in the faster guys at the front who got there on merit back into the middle of the field, right into all the argy-bargy. You know, they've got some slower guys behind them that want to prove a point and try and overtake them at the start, but they themselves want to prove a point and then move forward as quickly as possible in these really confined short races. So I think that there's going to be a lot of frantic action once more, but that's, again, why we love this sort of championship, isn't it? Because everybody is challenged in many different ways here. You know, you've got the actual merit of being at the front and disappearing off up the road like the SimRC guys did there, but then they have to prove themselves and fight through the pack from the middle of it. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they get on.
Another low reverse grid as well, and this plays into the hands of Quentin Guinez. He's done such a fantastic job of working his way through these fields, and the random number generator has just become very lucky for him at the moment because he's always getting these low reverse grids after a good performance in race number 1. Just makes his life so much easier in race 2 and 3. So I would expect him to be a force to be reckoned with once again here. I'm not sure what you can do if you're any of the other drivers to try and keep him in check at the moment, because he's by head and shoulders above everyone else, at least in terms of his performance over the past couple of weeks. He's going to be really, really tough to keep behind.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he won all 3 races at Watkins Glen, you know, and it's not often you see people do that. That is just unbelievable performance from one driver to do that. And I think there's all possibility he could end up doing it again before the season is done. You know, he just shows great consistency. And as mentioned, I commentated on him before in another championship, and he was exactly the same there. He'd put it on pole, he'd disappear up the road, and then in the reverse grid races, he would hold back at the right times. You know, he wouldn't push like a madman all the way through. He'd pick his battles, and that would help him get to the front cleanly and safely, and he'd just rack up the points time and time again.
Yeah, and well, again, he's going to take quite some stopping if he's able to be stopped at all in the back end of the season. But we'll see how the rest of the races go today, and then we'll be in a better place to try and talk about the repercussions further down the line. In terms of the battle in the AM Championship, of course, we had Dan Martin take the race win in AM here in this first race. Great points all for him. Also, not a bad finish for Stephen Daly as well, who's been sort of there or thereabouts over the past couple of weeks. Hasn't been necessarily putting up these big scores like we saw him in the early part of the season, which has allowed Slacker and Ben Gregory to catch up. But I think this result for for Daly is going to be one that gives him a little bit more confidence going forward now that he's gotten a relatively mediocre run of results out of the way and can start finishing in the top positions in NAM again.
Yeah, everybody has peaks and troughs, and it's nice to see Daly coming back out of that because he was one of the first AM class winners of the entire season. He was right up there from the get-go, like you say. He scored early, consistent points, and that should set you up for a very positive championship. You know, that should give you the confidence to then ride that wave and carry on. But unfortunately, he's just not been able to do that. You know, he's had this lull in the middle of the field, and he's just maybe had contact and issues that he's put himself in situations where he just wasn't able to get out of it, or he might have taken a risk and he's not benefited from it. It's so easy for drivers to do that, especially in a championship like this where you have to make split-second decisions all the time. It's not an endurance championship where you get 3 hours per race, you know, to just play it calmly and just assess everything a bit more slowly. This is like as fast as you want it. You know, there's so many cars around you, and it's touring car racing. People aren't going to be scared of sending it up the inside. You know, these aren't flimsy little Formula 4 cars that we're throwing at each other here. These are big, beefy TCR machines, and they're built for impacts and they're built for contact, and they can certainly withstand it very, very well. So it's nice to see Daly get that again. It's just going to be interesting to see whether he can keep this form going.
Yeah, it really is, and I certainly can't wait to dive into this second race of the season. Of course, that first race is taking place more as a morning session. We'll be heading in towards the afternoon now, but with the potential of a bit higher track temperature, which will mean the tires not quite going to keep as good as they were previously. So that will factor into this one. I know I mentioned it sort of every race at this point, but it's worth noting because yes, this is a sprint race. It's only 20 minutes that they're doing. However, these TCR cars do really punish the tires, especially the front ones, front-wheel drive, etc., etc. So it is an element that these drivers have to think about, and keeping an eye on track conditions is certainly part of being able to keep consistently going fast.
Yeah, definitely, and that's another beauty of these sort of race evenings that we get. You know, you get 3 races placed at different times of day, so the drivers need to factor in the sort of progression between the 3 of them. The track usage might get a little bit higher, the temperature will get higher, and then potentially lower again. But as you said, it's so easy to overdo it with the front tyres in TCR cars. They're all front-wheel drive. They're all on slicks as well. They scrub them like mad because the front wheels are doing all the work. It's too easy to get temperature in the front. It's really hard to get temperature in the back of them as well. And that's where you want that balance, because if you don't heat up the rears enough early on, obviously that's when the back end steps out, when your fronts get up to temperature and provide the grip that the rear doesn't have, if that makes sense. So there's a real balance to TCR cars, and that's what makes them such a beautiful thing to drive sometimes, because certain drivers might not be able to master GT cars and rear-wheel drive machines that can snap one way then the other so quickly on you. But TCR cars give you a little bit more leniency to throw it in and work hard with it. The actual masterful skill comes from keeping the momentum and doing it all smoothly, doesn't it?
Yeah, smooth and consistent is the name of the game. Even though, like I said, this is a sprint race rather than an endurance event. But of course, heading into this one, we're still waiting for the session to go live. So we're just sort of chatting at the moment as we're trying to fill time. But perfectly on cue, however, we can potentially have a little bit of a chat with the one, the only, Mr. Paul Smith. Paul.
Good evening from the world's worst hotel Wi-Fi on the worst microphone and webcam combo. Yes, it's me, Paul Smith. Hello, everybody.
Paul, you're not racing today. However, you'll be, coming to a little bit of an event with me tomorrow, but we'll discuss more about that. But just any opinions on that first race that we've just seen in the World Touring Car Series, at least here at Imola?
I'll be completely honest, I only saw the last 4 minutes of the race because I've just come back from having a meal with my father. So, no. Imola is one of those fantastic classic circuits from around the world, and it's one of my favourite tracks, which is why I'm gutted that I'm not actually there tonight. We were meant to be on a week off this week, which is why I accepted the event that we're going to, but unfortunately things got pushed back, so instead we're doing it tonight. But it's races 2 and 3. You've got the reverse grid draw. That really sort of mixes things up. I know from speaking to my teammate Michael Blake, he's saying he was really struggling with the car. He's still trying to get used to how the car is now driving. So he's still learning. So don't expect anything spectacular from him, is what he says.
Yeah, just sort of take me through what the changes were for the TCR cars, because we did see a lot of drivers struggling with the handling today, the back end wanting to snap out a lot. Just take me through what the difference is compared to post-patch and pre-patch in these cars.
Well, I mean, pre-patch, the cars were, how shall I say, a little bit understeery. You really had to dial out that understeer, get the back end kicking out in the Veloster. I mean, the back end on my car was just stepping out left, right, and centre all the way through the race. It was a real handful with how we had set up the car. But that was just to get enough turning on the brakes going into the corner to help steer it around there. I've not seen what the patch is for today, for yesterday, should I say, because yeah, I've not seen what changes they have made, unfortunately, for this time. But it does sound like, I'm speaking to Michael, he was saying that the car's 20 mil higher up now. He's having to run it a lot higher than what it was. So that's going to have an adverse effect on the car's handling.
Yeah, and again, like I said, we've seen drivers struggle with that today, especially down into Aqua Minerale, where you're having to be off-throttle, and these cars off-throttle, back end's always going to swing out no matter pre or post-patch, but it seems to have been more of a exacerbated issue here today, and it did catch a lot of people out, especially on the first lap. Cold tires is just going to exacerbate the issue. But well, your expectations, Paul, coming into this second race then, I mean, I know you've had limited experience with the first one, but just sort of what are you looking forward to?
Potential issues into Tamburello and Villeneuve, I think, are going to be some real key points on lap one with, as you say, cold tyres. Those rear tyres, when you get heavy onto the first heavy braking zone in these cars, the back end does want to slide out on you there on the opening lap. So you've got to be careful, especially if you've got that reverse grid pole, which is number 14. So really, it's going to be a case of just hang on for dear life for the first lap. Don't lose too many places if you're up there at the front. If you're in that mid path, that's your perfect opportunity to make up places. So, you know, it's an opportunity, tremendous opportunity for those drivers to maybe get themselves some good points.
Yep, it is. And, well, before we let you go, Chaz, I feel like I've left you out of the conversation a little bit here. Do you have anything to speak to Paul about?
Are you enjoying the hotel, Paul?
Tell you what, for 70 odd quid, this is actually a really nice hotel. I will say so. Got a good deal on it, I tell you. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yeah, free bottle of water. I mean, what more could a Yorkshireman want?
Yeah, it's the word free. He's happy with it. I mean, to be fair, me and Connery said the same thing before, and we were talking about when Connery had free food somewhere, and that was like, yeah, just say the word free and I'm there. But no, it's good to have you with us, Paul, to be honest. It's nice to see you again and have you on your regular spot on the broadcast, which hope I'm doing justice this evening.
Well, it's not me that's usually on this broadcast. It's usually Peter, of course, who's on the broadcast. All the best wishes to Peter on his nuptials as well. Congratulations to him. And yeah, he did like. I will recommend. I've been out to Silverstone Circuit already today. Saw the Ferrari Challenge GB out doing the practice, but went to the museum. I can actually recommend that Silverstone Interactive Museum. It is a really good afternoon.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah. Well, I'll be joining you tomorrow because we're doing an event with Porsche Great Britain down at Silverstone. So that's going to be fantastic. Pay attention to the RaceSpotTV social medias as well. We'll be posting a couple of things throughout the day. And I know, Paul, you're taking down all your camera equipment. I'm taking what I can take as well. So hopefully we should have good content from the Porsche Experience Center here on RaceSpotTV. But given that we are a couple of minutes away now, we can keep you around for a little bit longer here, Paul, because you don't have to go and practice for the second race. It's just give me your overall perspective of this series at the moment. Of course, not necessarily specific to this race, but how has things been throughout the entire season? Because of course we had it's probably fair to say we had a few teething issues. First couple of race days that we've had this season. the rate of attrition wasn't fantastic, and there was lots of contacts that perhaps shouldn't really have happened. But I get the feeling things have calmed down a little bit since then. We've got much better races. We've gotten really close action, and I think the series has definitely matured this season as we've gotten towards the halfway point.
You obviously weren't watching what happened to me last time out of Phillip Island. I got wiped out on lap 1 or 2 each of the races. So, yeah, it's been quite the challenge. I mean, I had a really good round at Watkins Glen and until the final race when we had the big one at the top of the S's. But, yeah, it's an exciting championship. It's a challenging championship. I mean, the level of competition that this championship has is absolutely incredible. It's one of the toughest touring car series on iRacing that there is anywhere in terms of private league. So I do recommend it, but it is hard and the racing can be rough at times. You've got to be a little bit thick-skinned and not, the slightest of contact you can't be kicking off about it because, well, it's Rubbins racing in touring cars.
Yep, indeed it is. We're just less than a minute and a half away from getting our starting grid for race number 2. Thank you very much for joining us, Paul, and, well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely, you will.
I'll see you soon, Paul. Nice one, mate. Cheers.
All right, there we go. That was Paul Smith, fellow RaceSpotTV commentator, driver in this series as well. It's always fantastic to have a bit of a chat with Paul, and I'll be having more of them tomorrow, no doubt. And of course, his dad's coming down as well, so it's great it's going to be great to meet him as well. But yeah, Chaz, we're just about to head into race number 2. A little bit delay of getting things set up, but everything should be groovy right now. Just having a little bit of a peek into the session. 42 degrees track temp.
Ooh, that's toasty. That's rather toasty to say the least, that is. And I know that the drivers will feel that. And to be honest, when you don't want hot weather, you need to consider the circuit that you're going to be going through that hot weather on. And Imola, it gets really muggy around that part of Italy. And I can tell you now that these drivers are going to have a torrid time through some of the quicker corners around here, especially at the top at Piratella as well. It's going to be a nightmare through there. Rivazza's going to feel horrible when they stamp on the brakes. I think this is going to be a tough race, and it's going to be an attritional one at that as well.
Yeah, I think so too. Checkered flag is out there in this warm-up session, so we'll imminently be able to give you the starting grid for this second race. It's, of course, a reverse grid event based on the top 14 cars from the results of race number 1. It does mean that Benjamin Gregory gets himself a reverse grid pole position. Great chance for the AM driver to get a whole boatload of points here today. Constantin Stolzenberg will start in the front row as well, with Steen Ledger in 3rd place, Stephen Daly in 4th, with Damon Owen Harris in 5th. Daniel Martin will start in 6th. Jason Landry in 7th, with Esteban Rodriguez in 8th, Morgan Butler, Ross McFarlane, Wojciech Swiderich, and Jürgen Frank round out the top 12 starters. Then you got Armes and Guinness rounding out the top 14. That's the end of the reverse grid there. Everyone else will cycle through very quickly on your screen, as we do have a very limited time to get ourselves through all of these before we get the green flag here in race number 2. It's not a position, though, that Benjamin Gregory, well, it is a position that he has experience with, shall we say, reverse grid pole position. He had one of those at Phillip Island, I believe. So it's going to be a great chance for him to get yet more points. But Stolzenberg, Ledger, Daly, all there, all ready and waiting to pounce. The start is crucial here as we get race number 2 underway at Imola. Great start from Gregory from pole position. Steen Ledger getting himself a decent one as well. Not quite enough to maintain an overlap over Stolzenberg, as he's able to slot in 2nd place. Further behind, though, you have Stephen Daly, Damon Owen Harris. Owen Harris trying to go the long way around at Tamburello. Perhaps he's overcooked it a little bit. Comes back onto the circuit, clears out a good couple of cars there. That is not ideal whatsoever. Jason Landry in the barriers there as well. I think there was an RD Sim Sports car that was caught up in that as well. Dan Martin, our AM class winner from race number 1, caught out in an early instant. He's able to return to the circuit, though, as we've got more side-by-side action out there, particularly between Michael Blake and Rafael Drage. But, you know, if I would to list all the names side-by-side at the moment, it'll take me about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's a hell of a grid, to be fair, and in the way that they're swapping positions, you could be reading them out, and by the time you've got halfway through, it could have all swapped again at the front. Nearly did then, actually, as Stolzenberg went down the inside of Ben Gregory up to Piratella. Didn't make it work, though, and Steen Ledger is behind them with a front row seat. Stephen Daly in there as well. He's hoping that this all goes to pot for Ben Gregory so he can try and take the AM victory. But when you have AMs at the very top end of the field like this, there's a lot of nerves can get to them, because not only are they leading their own class, but they're leading the race outright as well. Konstantin Stolzenberg, God, that's a mouthful, trying to go around the outside into Variante Alta later on the brakes than Ben Gregory. There's a little bit of a touch. The Elantra just glances off the side of the Veloster. Ben's on the outside now. He doesn't want to give him the room. There's big argy-bargy on the exit. It's getting a little bit too feisty. Steen Ledger down the inside. Now he's going to have the inside line all the way to Rivazza. He doesn't even need his. Oh, no! Over to the right-hand side goes Stephen Daly. Doesn't need to. Stolzenberg cuts across the nose of Gregory. Does he save it? Does he? Heck, he's gone straight over Rivazza. Steen Ledger, what a dodge. But Ben Gregory somehow goes back into the lead. Does he? No. Steen Ledger back around the outside. And Morgan Butler wants a piece of this as well now. Unbelievable moment there, Connery. I'm surprised that was not a bigger incident.
It was absolute chaos. Gregory wanted to come back on the circuit. Stolzenberg wasn't letting him on the outside of Variante Alta. It all got a little bit too hot between them. Ledger capitalized on all of it, though. He's going to come under threat on the way in towards Tamburello. However, Butler's going to hold station, of course, part of the SimLab Pure Sims car, so it's technically the same team as Steen Ledger. Wasn't willing to pull off the pass there. Instead, slots himself into second place with also Esteban Rodriguez in tow. So Gregory losing a couple of spots there, but that was chaotic at the end of that first lap, and it continues on. Was that Turner? Heavy impact with the barrier.
Yeah, that's a massive, massive hit for Turner, and that car is not going anywhere else now, I can tell you that for free. A little bit of a rub there at Tosa down the inside. Looked like potentially Stephen Daly is the man now to... Oh, sorry, my time is not updated. I was going to say Stephen Daly. How's he still up there? But no, it's not Stephen Daly, I believe. Is that... No, it is Stephen Daly. How's he actually managed to stay up there like that? Wow. He's really done a good job then in that case, because honestly, with how quickly and ferociously he went off the side of the road on the way down to Rivazza, I thought surely he is done. But that's amazing stuff. Jürgen Frank now up to 6th ahead of Savidovic, then Ross McFarlane, Nathan Ames, and then Corentin Guinez up to 10th place from 14th on the grid. But still, the battles go on, and this is the point now where we get these corks in the bottle. I hate the phrase, but it's a very, very apt one, isn't it?
It is. There's really not that many other ways you can describe it. As seeing back in the pack, Jake Blackhall trying to apply pressure to the back of Mark Johnson, one of your AM drivers. Big impact with the barrier for Blackhall down at the first Rivazza. And was it helped by a bit of contact? I think it may have been. The PGC car of Luke Arabia potentially getting into the back of Blackhall and helping that situation. Meanwhile, still on the live pictures, we got ourselves, well, get more battling. We've got Sim RC cars involved in this. We've got Pure Sims cars. It's all getting a little bit confusing on the way down in towards Tamburello. Savidovic ahead of this little pack here with Jürgen Frank and Ross McFarlane. Ames and Daly going wheel to wheel as well through that particular sequence of corners. Someone's had a big off there, Neil Stevenson.
I'm not going to lie. The Hyundai Veloster has 2 doors on one side and 1 massive door on the other side, and I think it needs a massive door on one side just to get the fruits of Jürgen Frank in it. Flipping heck. The fact he went around the outside of Tamburello like that and then had the confidence to just glance across the front of the nose of Ross McFarlane was amazing to watch. It was beautiful touring car racing. Nobody goes off. No one really loses out too much, and he has somehow continued onwards. That was excellent stuff. We look here now at Stephen Daly with Corentin Guinez down the inside. The Triple 8 machine gives him a hip and shoulder. Wet and dry rub down the inside, as Charlie Cox would say, and thank you very much. He's now under pressure from Pete Newman in the number 58 Hyundai Veloster of Pure Sims. He now keeps it nice and tidy on the way into Aqua Minerale. A bit of a wiggle behind him there from Johnston as well. There's constantly positions changing. Oh, that's Williams into the wall hard in the background. That's going to be a big incident.
Indeed it is. Car spun in the middle of the circuit. How many are they going to collect? Will it be a safety car? I think everyone's been able to get themselves through on that one. We haven't said the word safety car this race evening. We've had them 2 races, or rather 2 race days in a row. both at Watkins Glen and Phillip Island, but none so far here at Imola. Looks like, yeah, everyone's been able to get themselves through on that. If they collected a couple more cars, then potentially that might have caused the full course yellow to come out. But since just a handful of cars, it's better to keep the race running. Here's Jürgen Frank, though, on the back of Savidovic, and you also got Armes and McFarlane on the back of this train as well.
Yeah, and once again, the train just gets new carriages on the back of it as they all go nose to tail into one another. Savidovic had to slam on the anchors there, and he got a clip behind from Jürgen Frank, who then got hit by Ross McFarlane, who then got hit by Nathan Armes. And it was a mess, wasn't it, to be honest with you? Ben Dreaming Gregory trying his very hardest to hold on. He's around the outside on the exit of Villeneuve. There is a bit of a touch with Savidovic, and through down the inside goes Jürgen Frank. Gregory adds that extra 15 horsepower that you get by flashing the headlights that we all know about. Gives Savidovic another bit of a push, to be honest. And I'm sure that was a little tiny bit of retaliation just to say, let's not try too hard here to cause a bit of an argument. Ross McFarlane is going to be on the outside now to Piratella. Savidovic puts it in the middle of the road. There's a little look down the inside from Nathan Armes, and now Gregory's got Ross McFarlane round his outside. Ross manages to carry the pace. There's just cars swarming all over Ben Gregory, and he's going to be really nervous right now because this is for the lead. Down the inside goes Armes. Oh, he doesn't need to do it. Corentin Guinez is in there as well. Ross McFarlane's gone straight on. Flipping heck, I can't breathe, Connery. It's amazing.
Yeah, there wasn't a gap there for Armes. He made the gap himself by pushing the car out of the way, but there wasn't a typical gap there. So stewards, of course, will be looking at well, a lot of incidents after this race, I get the feeling. But yeah, Gregory's been sort of bullied around at the moment. It kind of feels like it's never a great position to be in, but this is kind of what happens when you're a reverse grid pole position sitter and you're trying to make your touring car the widest touring car on the circuit. You're going to get pushed and you're going to get shoved out of the way, aren't you?
You are indeed, yeah, that's the thing. You have to get your elbows out here and you have to be a little bit ruthless about it. You know, I know a number of drivers that are the nicest guys on the planet. They're rapid racers, but they're so nice and they don't want to get their elbows out because they're worried about the confrontation that comes afterwards in Discord when people just, you know, they could just constructively show how frustrated they are at an incident or some contact that's happened. Now, we're looking here at Corentin Guinez, and to me, that car is not going straight. That car is really crabbing a lot as it came towards us. Let's have a look as he comes down towards Villeneuve. It's the third Veloster in the queue. I don't know, the right rear looks broken to me. That doesn't look, I mean, you can see the brakes constantly glowing. Maybe it's rubbing a bit. Look at it here.
Yeah, it doesn't look entirely healthy. He's still trying to take the fight to McFarlane, though. McFarlane trying to drive around the outside. And so,
sorry, Connery, he swapped with Jürgen Frank there somewhere. I didn't see that happen. He swapped with his teammate somewhere.
This is what we get while trying to rely on liveries. Yes, there's the green and red differentiation between the two of them, but yes, it's Jürgen Frank trying to fight it out with Ross McFarlane there. I do apologise for that one as they head their way down in towards Sacco Minerale. Ross McFarlane hanging out the inside very well. Oh, 2x2 for Sacco Minerale. Well done to the both of them for making that one work, and Jürgen Frank gets out ahead.
Yeah, to be frank, that was a beautiful move. That was absolutely awesome. Really good, strong racing between the pair of them. Connery's got his head in his hands. It was only a matter of time. But to be honest with you, it's just epic, epic, friendly racing. Whoa, Jamie. That was way too deep into Sacco Minerale, but that's too easy to do, isn't it?
The thing is, Chaz, I thought I'd get away from the puns because Peter's not here anymore.
No, mate, put me and Peter in a booth together and it's murder.
3 wides on the replay here, involving this is the incident we saw earlier on, I believe. No,
actually, this is on the first lap.
Yeah, first lap.
To be honest, I'd be interested at seeing Stephen Daly's run of that again, because how on earth he stayed throughout all of that, I do not know. This is Rob Turner getting, well, turned. They're all trying to go for the same bit of road, aren't they? Goes left, goes right, gets contact from behind, lifts the rear wheels off the ground and throws it quite literally at the barrier. Here's another look back then. This is what happened to Jake Blackhall. He's got a car right behind him as well. Goes one way, then the other, and again, it's just movement this way, then the other in the braking zone from drivers trying to find that space, and it's just not ending well, unfortunately. They've got to try everything they can, but it's just circumstantial stuff at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We'll go a couple of replays here. Here's the problem with Neil Stevenson, gets a tag from behind. and biff, as Peter Mackay would say, into the tyre barriers.
Oh my
and
goodness.
yeah, more problems there. That was Craig Williams. Getting a right punch to the right hand side of that car. Cars scattering across the circuit. And that was pretty close. I mean, I am kind of in control of the safety car at the moment, but that was pretty close to bringing it out there.
We'll just throw it for a laugh, Connery. Let me just flip a coin here on my desk. Hang on. But no, it was a shame to see that incident there. I'm not quite sure. Obviously, first time on the job for this evening, but not sure who this Civic was that went flying through the middle of them. But there was a very impatient Honda Civic that bounced off the pair of the two cars and unfortunately caused that issue. Here is a move down the inside of Wojciech Svidovic by Nathan Ames, and he gets it done. Lovely stuff. Great move, nice and tidy. Svidovic gives him the space as well. And now he's going to try and get the slipstream back on him and make the move in return. It's great racing between the two of them. And these two have got a bit of a gap over the cars behind as well, and that's important. Corentin Guinez and Jürgen Frank are going to surely work together to try and move forward. Maybe Corentin just moving out of the way. Give his teammate the slipstream, and again contact into Tamburello. But the thing is, Nathan Ames was not giving the room down the inside. That's a weird moment for the physics in the gravel, but he just didn't give the room around the outside. He expected Svidovic to back out of it, and that's what happens when you expect that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a carbon copy incident to what we saw in race number 1. I think it was with Ferrier and one other. But yeah, that's Ames now basically out of this race. And it's not ideal. Yeah, he's taking the tow back to pit lane. Here's the replay. Yeah.
It's tough because from that angle it looks like Svidovic is the one that moves left and hits Ames, but Nathan just didn't have... I mean, the way that corner goes to the left, like you mentioned before, there is a kink. Nathan didn't keep an entire car's width in lieu on his right-hand side there before they got onto the brakes, and unfortunately the two were always going to magnetise towards each other and have one hell of an incident. And luckily for Svidovic, he got away with that, but Nathan Ames was in the barrier hard, as we saw, now obviously out of the race. So Svidovic has to suddenly defend from Jürgen Frank and Corentin Guinez, and then Ross McFarlane again, who he was battling with in the end of the first race.
Well, yeah, it's, you know, like I said, it's not the first time we've seen an incident like that. Probably not going to be the last time today that we'll see an incident like that, given that we have 6.5 minutes of this race to go, and then, of course, we have race number 3 to contend with as well. Here's the battle for P4. Wojciech Svidovic, Jürgen Frank, Corentin Guinez and Ross McFarlane all involved in this train. McFarlane actually got a very good run over Guinez coming out of the final corner. The problem for McFarlane, though, is no one's going to join him on that extreme left-hand side of the circuit in terms of the draft. Here comes Jürgen Frank, though, on Wojciech Svidovic. Frank attempting the long way around into turn number 1. Carrying some very, very good speed indeed, but he hasn't gotten the move complete just yet. Guinez looking to try and find a way through on this one as well. Compromised line from Svidovic means that he's a bit of a sitting duck, and Guinez has worked his way through. And now here comes Ross McFarlane as well to the outside at the Villeneuve chicane. Going to back out of the move, going to live to fight another day. But that was great opportunistic driving by both Frank and Guinez in that instance to get the both of them past. And now McFarlane is, well, the one left behind here.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a shame that the battle had to sort of shuffle out that way because they were side by side for so long. I was hoping they were going to keep it going, to be honest with you. Great stuff, though, from all 4 of them, for them all to continue going. And I'm still sure that there is an issue with Corentin Guinez's car, and he's just managing to deal with it time and time again. We have actually seen it before with some of the drivers in this championship, where they will have slight suspension damage that makes the rear end crab slightly, but you can compensate for that with the steering, and you just get used to it as a driver, and somehow they manage to still wrangle it around at decent pace. Here's Loic Rabia moving very aggressively to the right hand side on the brakes in the Elantra, throwing it one way then the other, trying to just somehow put Ben Gregory off, who is still leading the AM class. Now the 2 cars behind Rabia are Holman and Daly. Daly, the second of which, is watching his teammate put the pressure on now, and he's hoping that he'll open the door for him to then go and have a go at Ben Gregory for the AM win.
Here comes Holman down the inside at Rabia, and Well, he's got the position complete into the first Ravazza, holds on to it through the second as well. Stephen Daly looking threatening in that other RD Sim Sports cars as well. They're very recognisable in the black and purple. Definitely a livery that you can instantly associate with the team. Arabia looking to try and come back at him though on Holman on the way in towards turn number 1. There's been a few swaps for positions a little bit further up the order as well. But battles going on left, right and centre. And Arabia going around the outside at Holman does gain the position back.
And now his teammate, Stephen Daly, wants a piece of this as well. He's thinking, well, I'm not going to slow down just because you boys are faffing about. I'm going to try and give it a go. They almost look like they could all three be teammates here, just running different coloured highlights on the cars because they've all got that stripe up the bonnet in the same place. Stephen Daly now we are on board with number 64 machine from RD Sim Sport 2. A lot of the teams in this championship getting split into 2 or even 3 teams based on how many they enter. There is a limit on how many cars can be in one team. Great view though from the front of the Hyundai Elantra. I remember when I first saw this car actually in the real world. It was entering as a bit of a test bed at Barcelona at the end of 2021, and it was driving around the circuit. And I was thinking, what on God's earth is that? And then when it came into the pits and I saw the Hyundai badges on it, I was thinking, what have they done? Like, what even is this? Because I've never seen an Elantra on the road. And then it's an absolutely gorgeous car. Is sideways, 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 just in front. Well, that was a big moment for Holman. And he's completely lost out, and the 2 RD machines go past on his right-hand side, and they absolutely mug him off there. And, well, Stephen Daly says, get out of the way, son. I want to go after that pesky Gregory ahead. He's only got 3 minutes left to do this, and, well, that feels like it's going to be about 1 lap around Imola.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Of course, laps run shouldn't necessarily be any different compared to race number 1, considering we have not had a safety car. Yeah, we'll just have to round that last couple of corners, try and see. So we've got Steen Ledger. He's just headed this way across the line now. So that's going to end up being 2 laps to go for these guys as they charge their way down the pit straight. And we'll see if any moves are going to be made as Arabia looking to try and come back on Stephen Daly here. There we go. Move in progress. Can Arabia complete it though? Deep on the brakes into Tamburello, and well, makes the apex as well. That's very well worked there for the driver of the number 4. Daly looking to try and gain a little bit of ground back. It does so through the exits of Tamburello, but on the entry to Villeneuve is not the best overtaking opportunity at this circuit. There's a decent wealth of them though.
Yeah, there really is actually, and considering how much of a flowing circuit Imola has been known to be before, it's actually quite amazing to know that there's so many hard braking zones where people can try and throw one up the inside. Here's Dominic Cortum. He's trying to get past Mr. Blackwell in number 14 3M Honda Civic. He's trying not to move over too far to the left-hand side and make contact with him. He's in the Full Send Racing machine. I've watched a lot of these guys before as well, and they certainly live up to their name. 2 wonderful liveries on these cars, very striking, both very similar prospects as well, or similar principles, I should say. Let's get your English right, Chaz. Side by side as they go down towards Aqua Minerale, and Cortum tries to have it down the inside. A little bit of a touch here and there, I think, but they got away with it. Down the inside, gets it stopped as well. Lovely stuff that was by Cortum. Of course, they're in 2 different classes, so they don't need to worry about it too much, i.e. Blackwell doesn't need to worry about it, but what he does need to worry about is this man, our fellow commentator, Stefan Schlacker, behind him for Butler Pal Motorsport. He's all over him all of a sudden.
We haven't talked much about Stefan over the course of this race. He didn't have a great qualifying in race 1 and didn't have a great race either. Started 37th here and, well, has clawed his way through the field, plus 21 in this particular race, which is a pretty good going for Schlacker. Although still losing ground to Daly and losing ground to Gregory in terms of the AM Championship at the moment. So it's not all fantastic so far this race for Schlacker, but he's going to take what he can get across the line to start the final lap then. Here's the view a little bit further up the order as Holman versus Arabia continues to rage on.
It does indeed, and Arabia still not managing to get through yet. He's tried absolutely everything so far. It's one of them battles that every time we come back to it, there's a different chapter that's being started and rewritten and then scrapped and thrown in the bin, and then they make a new one. Runs a little bit wide through the exit of Villeneuve. Again, that's a corner you really don't want to get wrong as we cut very suddenly to Morgan Butler going down the inside of his Civic driving teammate, Esteban Rodriguez. It's a Pure Sims 1-2-3 at the moment as well, actually, with Steen Ledger leading the race outright. Butler in second, then Rodriguez in third. Then we've got 2 of the Sim RC cars as well. It's fantastic to see these guys doing such a great job at the top end of the order. Just going to have a quick look at the championship standings and update you on where Morgan Butler is outright. He's currently down in 32nd place. I didn't actually expect that. He's driving for Pure Sims Development in this season, but he's had a couple of nightmarish rounds, has Morgan, unfortunately. And it's always the case, really. He doesn't have that much luck on his side, but it seems like Steen Ledger does in this one, Connery.
Indeed he does. Started third, got those positions disposed of very early on indeed. A couple of instances helped him in terms of the pressure from behind, but it's been a clean race and a competent race for the number 85. Steen Ledger for Pure Sims Esports heads his way across the line to take the race 2 win here at Imola for the World Touring Car Series, and Rodriguez and Butler will make this a Pure Sims 1, 2, 3. Jürgen Frank, the top place Sim RC car, as we'll get Quentin Guinness and Ross McFarlane across the line as well. Wojciech Swidovic in 7th place, and yet more Pure Sims cars coming through as well. So that was a relatively decent affair here in race number 2. Some good battles, especially in the middle of the pack. Yet to see some of the runners yet to head their way across the line at the moment. There was Scott Malcolm, I believe, heading his way out of the final corner and across the line. There's the Team Mad car ahead as well. But yeah, everything pretty well, at least here at the back here with the gaps so spread out. Relatively professional, but we're all getting ourselves our sights set ahead to that race number 3.
Yeah, and that's where all the tempers flare usually.
Yeah.
Because people might have had a bit of vengeance stewing in their mind from races 1 and 2, and everybody really gets thrown together in race 3, because we've already got a mixed up result in some ways now because of that first reverse grid, and now we get a second one to really add to the mix. What do you reckon, Connery, before it stops? High or low?
Oh, I'm hoping high, because we haven't had many high ones over the course of this season. So I am... I would take 19. I would take 19 if it's able to have the inertia to get there. Nah, it's 16. So I mean, it's not a high, not a low, not very low reverse grid, but still relatively low. As I'd rather have seen the 19 or the 20 or the 23 or even the full reverse grid. But yeah, that's just the situation. We'll stick with the low reverse grids apparently, as we've had for the first half of the season in the World Touring Car Series. Steen Ledger, though, in race 2, takes the race win, with Morgan Butler and Esteban Rodriguez rounding up the podium spots to make it a podium lockout for Pure Sims amongst their 3 different teams. Jürgen Frank in P4, with Quentin Guinness finishing P5. Ross McFarlane P6, with Wojciech Swidovic in P7. Pete Newman P8, with Ben Gregory taking the AM-class win in P9, with James Holman P10. And then we have Luke Rabia in P11 with Stephen Daly P12, Anton Sankerson in P13, Dominic Horton 14th, Dan Blackwell 15th, and our reverse grid pole position sitter, Stefan Schlacker in that number 28 Butler Powell Motorsports car. So Stefan Schlacker taking the reverse grid pole for race 3. Neil Ferrier will narrowly miss out on that in P17 with Junior Rushworth P18, Sam Smith and Nick Clibbins round out the top 20. Then Harry Fox in 21st with Michael Blake 22nd, Scott Malcolm and Daniel Martin 23rd and 24th. 25th goes to Jake Blackhall with Jaroslav Sebula finishing behind him. Sean Gardner, Mark Johnson, Rob Sutherland, Jason Landry round out the top 30. Rob Turner and Damon Owen Harris in P31 and 32 will be the final 2 drivers on the leading lap. Neil Stevenson 1 lap down, the only car 1 lap down in P33. Then we have our retirements, Nathan Armez, Adam Watson, Craig Williams, Alex Torres, Rafael Drash, and Bran van Putten. Konstantin Stolzenberg will round out the top 40, and then we'll get ourselves our, we won't have any more. Well, we have John Roberts, but he didn't take the start down in 41st. So as we'll get ourselves our server all set up for our final race of the, the race evening, shall we say, here in the World Touring Car Series. A comfortable finish for Steen Ledger, who ended up being your overall race winner here today. He had a little bit of action there in the first couple of laps or so, but as soon as he got clear, he just ran away. It was very, Quentin Guinness of him to do that, even though he's Steen Ledger.
Yeah, it was very tidy. Really tidy drive by Steam Ledger. And his two teammates behind him as well, doing a fantastic job. That was Rodriguez's first podium outright in the championship. That was Morgan Butler's second podium of the season as well, since his overall race victory. So it's done really, really good things for the Pure Sims guys. They're going to have a massive confidence boost from that. Now, obviously, they're going to get thrown further back in the pack than some of the fastest guys in the series who are sort of inside the middle of the top 10 there. We're going to have Guinez, McFarlane, Savidovic all together as well. Jürgen Frank in there. That quartet are all going to be stuck together, and I think that's going to be very exciting to see. Stefan Schlacker at the front, he really needed that reverse grid tonight because he's not had an evening to remember so far. He's got a bunch of wins so far. He's got the most AM podiums out of everybody coming into this evening. Anyway, Ben Gregory's now scored 2 tonight and overtaken him, so Ben's got 9 now to Stefan Schlacker's 8. But Stefan's won only 1 race in the AM class this season, so he needs to get back on it, and he needs to take this opportunity to do that, get solid points, and try and run away at the top.
Indeed, he does. It is a fantastic opportunity for Schlacker to at least narrow the gap as far as the championship is concerned coming into this one, and we'll see what he can do. However, he does still have not only Dan Blackwell, but he has Stephen Daly finishing, starting a couple of positions behind him, so he won't have it as comfortable as potentially Ben Gregory would have had it on his reverse grid pole position for this race, but it should still be something to try and keep an eye on in that third event. Looking further back, we got Rodriguez getting himself on the podium. Fantastic to see for the number 35 car. But again, one of the stand-up performers, potentially with damage, like you pointed out. Quentin Guinez, once again, he gained 9 spots from 14th up to 5th. It's, yeah.
We can't stop him. We just cannot stop him at all, but it's amazing. Really amazing. And like I said before, it's the similar performance that I've seen before in other championships. He's just an amazing touring car driver, Connery.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, we got a couple of drivers waiting to get their interviews done. And why not? Let's get ourselves potentially Morgan Butler, because he finished in 2nd place here overall, started P9. Morgan, it's great to talk to you again. And, well, in much better circumstances this time around, given your 2nd place finish in this race.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Can't really, complain about anything, which is a first for me, to be honest. Well, actually, no, I can complain about one thing. Listening back to the broadcast, Chaz saying that I was in 32nd. That's not true. I'm 8th. Just want to call him out on that. Looking on the announcement sheet in the fantastic WSR Discord, TC announcements, it says P8.
Oh. I don't know why. I'm on the point sheet. You're down to 30.
As we're told.
You can blame.
I'll be having words. Yeah, hashtag blame, but everyone hashtag blame Bun. That's just how it is.
I'm sorry, Morgan.
You will be.
Ooh, it's turned all of a sudden.
Paul!
We need Paul's assistance here, but yeah, Morgan. Again, it seemed to be a relatively comfortable race for you. At least once we gotten over that hump of starting P9 and trying to get through the field, it looked like you just sort of kept yourself out of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I went from P9 to P3 without actually overtaking anybody properly, which is always the nicest way to do it. When you can just kind of just sit back, let everything else happen around you, and then all of a sudden you find yourself on one of the steps of the podium. So yeah, that's always nice and satisfying.
What's the game plan? What's the game plan coming into the third race then? We've got a lot of fast drivers around you.
Probably just going to stick to the usual game plan, to be honest, which is just get a foot down and send it, to be honest. It doesn't usually deviate round to round. That's usually just kind of all it is. Just see what happens. If it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
And, well, you were part of a Pure Sims 1, 2, 3, albeit split across 3 teams. That must be a great achievement for the team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the second that the race finished, we were all congratulating each other and relatively excited. Well, I say relatively. I should say massively excited by that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave you get back to them and potentially get in the server and start the warm-up for the third race. But great result, and best of luck in the third event.
Thank you very much.
That was Morgan Butler there, finishing in P2 in this second race. And we can actually bring Paul Smith back into the commentary booth. Paul, you watched all of that race this time around?
Yes, I did. Yes, it was. It was an interesting one, really, wasn't it? Because at the start, you had a few people getting into the front to rear contact. Seems to be a thing that seems to be a theme on lap ones. People need to just anticipate that other people may be slower on lap one than what they used to be on the brakes, and so they need to just back up a little bit and give that little bit of anticipation. I know it's the best time for you to be able to make some places, but you got to think the long game here in this series. You get yourself penalty points, you can't drop that weak score. That score will count towards your final total, so you'll then end up dropping another score, which could be put you in a worse situation for the championship. So you got to think of that. Another one with the Wojciech Savinovic one. Going into turn one, going to Tamburello, should I say, didn't we learn anything from George Russell and Valtteri Bottas at Imola a couple of years ago? You know, you've got to leave the space, as a certain Spanish Formula One driver likes to remind us, you need to leave the space. And we're racing on the internet here, folks. Yes, the rules say a car's width of space needs to be left, but you need to give that little bit of just extra just to make sure that you're safe on the contact. But the SimRC guys, I mean, how good are they in those cars? They are sensational in that. They gave some really good race in there with Ross McFarlane as well, duking it out with them. But the Pure Slims lads at the front, they got away and were able to run away up to the hills and take a nice sip of the Aqua Minerale that's available here.
Yeah, absolutely. At least coming into this race 3 is another low reverse grids. Paul, you've been familiar with these over the course of this season. Do you see, at least in this next race, any change in the sense that we get other teams involved up there, in and amongst that pure SimRC sort of head-to-head that we've been having throughout the entirety of this season so far? Do you see that breaking down at all? Or are we going to continue to see this for this next race and potentially for second half of the season as well?
I think we're just going to see it for the rest of the season, let's be honest. Those two are so evenly matched in terms of teams. But Corentin Guinez, he is just something else, isn't he? He only just missed out on last season's championship. So he really is the real deal when it comes to TCR racing. And, he has got just an innate ability to get something out of these front-wheel drive cars that the rest of us monkeys seem to not be able to do.
Yeah. I mean, he's got to be hoping that there's, there are more championships like this one where he can get stuck in, because there's not really that many touring car leagues, at least top-level touring car leagues out there, and this is certainly one of the ones that has attracted the top talent, shall we say. Usually in touring cars, it's generally the special events whenever they get involved is when it attracts all the top teams. So it's great to see these guys, again, going head-to-head in a league like this one, so that they do have that experience on track together once they get to special events and things like that.
Yeah, don't worry, George Simmons. I won't bring up the Nürburgring. Oh, sorry. But no, I mean, I said it after the first race, didn't I? It is one of the closest, most competitive series is this in terms of private leagues when it comes to TCR racing. I mean, really, I can't think of anywhere outside of this series where you get this level of competition. But it's not just for those pros as well. The AM Championship, that is a pretty close run thing as well. I mean, Stefan, I've got to give credit to him. He came through that field in the second race and really got a good result for him. But again, Ben Gregory, Stephen Daly, they're sort of in and around things when it comes to reverse grids and that. So, the AM Championship, this series has got everything for everyone.
Yeah, and I hazard a guess, sort of later on in the season, if Guinness continues to run away with the Pro Championship, the AM Championship is going to be potentially the main thing we focus on, because that's going to be a little bit more up in the air than the Pros. So that's potentially something we'll be looking at in the next couple of rounds. But Chaz, do you have any input on anything that we've discussed?
Yeah, to be honest, I think Paul's spot on with the fact that Corentin Guinez can just get something else out of these cars that nobody can. It's something we've all seen by now, time and time again. It's not like it's just one circuit where he's good or one car where he's good. I've seen him do it in the Veloster and I've seen him do it in the Audi, and it's just no different. It's always the same approach. He's won 7 races outright this season. Nobody else has won more than 2. He's absolutely dominating it. He's got 12 podiums. No one else has got more than 7. It's just incredible. Absolutely incredible. And, you know, you get these drivers that we call it doing a bit of a Turkington over here in the UK with the British Touring Car Championship, where you're not always the most exciting driver that's getting involved in battles and getting argy-bargy with people. You're not always winning every race. You know, Collins won a championship before with 1 race victory to his name, and he's just scoring consistent points time and time again. Sometimes you get drivers that do that, but then you get people like Corentin Guinez who just win every race and disappear off up into the distance. You know, coming to my own sort of stuff, I commentate on the FIA European Truck Racing Championship. Bit of a niche thing, but we have a wonderful guy, a Hungarian sim racer as well, called Norbert Kish, and we have 4 races in a weekend. First, race 1 and 3, which are the first races on each day, are sorted by qualifying for the grid. He puts it on pole, and he disappears off up the road and wins every first race and third race of the weekend. Then you get reverse grid, doesn't always win them. Corentin's like that. He puts it on pole, he wins the first race. He knows that that section of the evening is his, and he's done that. And then he just has to manage the other ones. And that's why he can be more patient, because he's always got that first race in his pocket.
Yeah, indeed he has. Well, we've got the checkered flag out there in terms of warm-up. Thank you very much for joining us once again, Paul. And again, I'll see you tomorrow. But we're heading to the starting grid then for the 3rd race here at Imola. Here we go. Stefan Schlacker on pole position with Dan Blackwell on the front row as well. It's an all-round front row here in race 3 with Dominic Kortum in P3, Anders Ankersen P4, Stephen Daly P5, Luke Rabia P6. James Holman will start in 7th with Benjamin Gregory in P8. Pete New in P9 with Wojciech Savidovic in P10 with Ross McFarlane and Corentin Guinez rounding out the top 12 cars. Jürgen Frank and Esteban Rodriguez round out the top 14. Morgan Butler, Dean Ledger down to 16. Everyone else starts exactly where they finished in race number 2. So we can cycle through on those very, very quickly indeed. But drivers getting themselves ready now. We're around about 10 seconds away from getting ourselves this final race underway here at Imola. Track temperature, believe it or not, a little bit higher than what we saw in race number 2. It's 43 degrees out there, scorching temperatures here in Italy. Let's see how that affects things as we get the final race of this race meeting underway here at Imola. Good start from Dominic Kortum from 3rd place. He's able to maintain an overlap here on the driver's left-hand side on the way down in towards turn number 1 over Dan Blackwell. Blackwell's going to have a very big task to try and defend this one. Instead, he backs out of it. Kortum up from 3rd to 2nd in the first corner. Everyone else filing out single file. Meanwhile, we've had someone spun around at the very, very back of the field. Didn't quite catch who exactly that was backwards through the gravel trap.
Sorry, I think it might have been Damien Owen Harris at the back. You know, he had an issue down there in the earlier race, and I remember that Veloster white, black and green machine, but it's all still feisty at the front here, Connery.
Yep, indeed it is. And so the RD Sensibles cars are almost getting themselves into each other. A whole gaggle of them, 3 of them on the way out of Tosa, up the hill towards Piratella. Stephen Daly leading the group of the 3 purple and black cars. It's now challenged for the race lead. Dominic Kortum looking to the inside of Stefan Schlacker, forces Stefan Schlacker wide. There's cold tyres involved in that one as well, I would have thought. Kortum still has an overlap into Acca Minerale. Has Schlacker overcommitted on the brakes there? Steps out a little bit. There's been an incident through the outside of Piratella there. Car out into the gravel, has checked everyone else up behind as well. A little bit chaotic here on the first lap, but race lead still with a very big question mark hanging over it as Schlacker's trying desperately to hold on, and the car is so unstable.
Yeah, it went one way, then the other, really fishtailed through Variante Alta, and that's Morgan Butler around. And there is another Veloster in the wall there with him. Is that Sam Smith that might have gone off? No, it's Nick Clibbons. We saw him have an issue earlier on. The 2 cars we saw around before were Rob Turner and I believe the other one was Jason Landry. They were off on the exit of Piratella. But yes, Stefan Schlacker doing a great job at the front. Oh, there's more contact with Morgan Butler, and that's one of his teammates in the wall with him. Oh no, that's the worst situation imaginable when 2 teammates go in the wall. It's Jake Blackhall as well. You can hear the screams from here. Stefan Schlacker still leads the race with Dominic Kortum right behind him. Only driver, the only pro driver in the top 4 now is Dominic Kortum. He needs to get on with this. Schlacker lets him go, look.
Yeah, And, well, Schlacker knows there's more important battles to be had, and that's with the car directly behind him, actually. So personally, I potentially would have fought that a little bit harder, unless Schlacker feels that he can't keep himself ahead of Kortum and instead files in behind. Feels like he can put up the defense to Blackwell, both of them in the AM class, of course. Further back, though, we've got Newman on the outside of Guinness. Well, this is Guinness trying to improve position here, and in fact, Guinness in the process of this might lose one if Ross McFarlane can file through in the tyre tracks to meet Newman here. Newman's going to push out to the exit of the corner. Guinness up over the curb. Still able to keep it on the grey stuff, though, and make this a big challenge on the way up the hill towards Piratella. It's tough to go around the outside here. It is kind of the preferred line if you have a bit more of an overlap than Guinness had. He gets good speed off the corner, though, and can take the fight down towards Aqua Minerale. Newman will give him a little bit of a squeeze down into the braking zone. Guinness a little bit unstable on that inside, a little bit of door barging through the exit of the corner. Careful with the slowdown penalty on the exit of that section, but I think Newman might have gotten away with it.
That was great driving by Pete Newman. He gave him only the room that he needed. Corentin Guinness as well tried to give the room on the exit. There is a lot of natural understeer through there in a front-wheel drive TCR car. Newman hops, skips and jumps over the chicane, and now he's got his teammate Ross McFarlane pushing him down the hill. Then you've got Jürgen Frank behind and Neil Ferrier as well. All of them moving down towards Rivazza now. The long, sweeping right curve, hard onto the brakes, try and get the car as stable as possible. McFarlane down the inside. His teammate makes it nice and easy for him. Then you've got Jürgen Frank trying to come through as well, gives Pete a little bit of a shove out to the side. Then Ferrier makes his way through as well. And also in this, you've got Steen Ledger and Esteban Rodriguez, the two drivers that finished first and third in the last race of the evening. There's a lot of pure sims all together in this big scrap, and they are managing to just sort it out single file down towards Tamburello. But we both know, Connery, that's not going to last long at all.
Holman down the inside, able to take the position away from Dan Blackwell. Meanwhile, further back through the order, we have this gaggle of cars between Frank and Ferrier and Ledger and Newman and Rodriguez, all getting themselves involved here. These are the cars that got the bad end of the reverse grid. They haven't really been able to press on forwards all that much in the first 5 minutes of this race, so a little bit of a change compared to what we saw at the start of race 2, and that's helped by the fact we haven't had too many massive incidents at the very front. That has allowed those drivers to come back through. Bit of a door-to-door barge between Dan Blackwell and Stephen Daly coming up the hill, and there's another little lean there between the two of them on the way into the corner. Let's see how this ends up between the two of them. Daly going to give the room for Blackwell to come back onto the circuit. That's what you like to see. Now down into Aqua Minerale. Ooh, Daly got a bit squirrely on the brakes there and almost caused a big incident.
Yeah, he turned in a little bit early, I think. I imagine he was expecting the overlay to have disappeared. You know, when he turns in, he just wanted to filter in behind, maybe go for a bit of a cutback, but it was just slightly misjudged, and he made the mistake. And now he's got Wojciech Savidovic right behind him, the Polish driver, very determined and very fast. There's Corentin Guinness. He's ahead of Ross McFarlane in this race. He's got Ben Gregory next up the road. But look at the drivers that Corentin's got behind him. He's got Ross McFarlane, Jürgen Frank, Steen Ledger, all drivers that have done very well so far this evening. And he's ahead of a number of them. So his championship lead, if anything, is not really going to have a dent in it at all after this evening. Dominic Kortum still leads the race outright. Stefan Schlacker leads the AM class. Holman and Savidovic are on for a podium in the Pro class, but not outright. And then Schlacker, Blackwell and Daly is the current AM podium. It looks like Wojciech Savidovic has now got past Stephen Daly. Stephen's just letting him go. He doesn't want to fight it too hard because he wants to hold on to his AM podium. There he is with his teammate Ankerson behind. We've not really seen much of Anders Ankerson this evening, have we?
No, we haven't. The only time we mentioned him is on the grid and the results. It kind of feels like at the moment, instead of out there on circuit. But continuing to go along quite well in this race, in and amongst his RD Simsport teammates, of course. He has Stephen Daly ahead of him. And, well, we'll see how this progresses on the way through this, remaining 13.5 minutes of this event. There's a battle between Gregory and Guinness, I believe, on the way through Tosa, as Guinness, trying to do his characteristic drive through the field, has run into a little bit of a roadblock here, because while he's trying to harass Gregory, McFarlane is deciding to give him a bumper.
He's He's trying to decide which bit of the car he wants to take off. There was a big old hit there down the inside. Somehow, Guinness got an amazing cutback on Ben Gregory there, and he's going to make it work around the outside of Aqua Minerale. That's gorgeous by Corentin Guinness. What a fantastic manoeuvre that is. How on earth did he make that into an overtaking manoeuvre after getting a tap off Ross McFarlane into Piratella? The man is a genius. Ross McFarlane now goes down the inside of Ben Gregory. He's not fighting too hard here. I think he knows that an AM podium is maybe out of the question, but you don't get a massive amount of points less for finishing 4th in the AM class. So he's just playing it safe now, is Ben. He doesn't want to get amongst all these pro drivers that are coming through and having their own fight, because he knows that they will be a little bit more desperate in this final race to just claw back some points compared to the rest of the evening. Gregory, though, actually does quite the opposite to what I'm mentioning, so clearly foresight is not a talent of mine. Right behind him right now is the 76 of Jürgen Franklin, Steen Ledger as well. There's pressure coming from all angles here for pro drivers and AM drivers alike. But this is why we love having the 2 classes in the championship, isn't it, Connery?
We do. And, well, here's Blackwell and Savidovic. Absolutely level on the way down into the braking zone for Tamburello. Relatively equal on the brakes, but Savidovic drags it in a little bit further and is able to take the position off of Blackwell. And well, now Blackwell is on the, well, potentially going to be soon on the nose of Stephen Daly. That's going to be a battle for the AM P2. Stefan Schlacker still resides, of course, in that second place overall and first place in the AM class. He's currently getting harassed, though, by James Holman. This is what happened to Damon Owen Harris. We saw him backwards through Tamburello, and that's, well, that's what happened there.
Yeah, contact from one of the Sim RC cars, just losing it on the grass at the start. This is what happened to Mark Johnston. He's just going up over the top of the hill. He's right in the thick of it, and oh, big old hit one way, then the other. Plenty of cars around, and yeah, a number of them just rolling backwards and trying to get stopped and clipping one another. It was one massive chain reaction. Here's another look back at the incident for Morgan Butler. He was having a really good night up until this point. He's in the white, black and red Elantra right in the middle of the field there. Oh, there's contact in front and he has to slow down, and it's his own teammate that pushes him off the road. I think that was Rodriguez. Morgan said that Rodriguez let him through in that earlier race for championship points, but unfortunately now that contact has put it all to bed. This is what happened when his teammate Jake Blackwell caught up with him, Connery.
Oh, no. Lost the car on the avoidance.
That's just how loose they are, though, isn't it? That's, yeah. You know, we were talking about earlier with how loose they are since the update. That is a scary example of it, isn't it?
Indeed it is. And there's Torres sort of having a bit of a sketchy moment at the back end, then gets collected in an instant down the hill into Aqua Minerale. And the rejoin,
oh, no.
Not the best either. Tags the
I think he had damage, around. You know. Sorry, mate. I know I keep cutting over you, but I think he had a bit of damage as he went down the hill from that hit. And I think he even got clipped at Piratella as well. So it was one big ongoing snowball effect, wasn't it? Of damage, yeah. More contact, more damage, can't control the car, more contact, and then it's all over.
So we have a couple of active battles. We have this one between Daly and Blackwell, which is starting to get a little bit spicy. We've also got one between Schlack and Holman in second place overall, by the way. That's is continued to sort of go on off the cameras, so to speak, between the AM and the pro driver. There's a move down the inside, though, for Corentin Guinness. A bit of a surprise one into Tosa. Doesn't have the traction, doesn't have the speed off the corner. If he can just maintain the slight overlap into Piratella, then he might have a chance, but he's already lost that. Gains it back with a dive down the inside. There's the barge to send Blackwell out of the way. Blackwell's not going to be happy about that one whatsoever. Anders Angston's going to lose a spot here to Ross McFarlane, but I think that was a little too firm there for Guinness squeezing through.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. It was a late opportunistic move, but unfortunately he didn't make the corner and Blackwell was pushed out wide. Maybe a little bit of furious retaliation as Blackwell came very quickly back across the left-hand side. Luckily it wasn't a bigger incident, but Blackwell needs to just try and keep his head on now. He's in a different battle, isn't he? He needs to think about the AM Championship rather than the pros and what Corentin Guinness is doing. He may be a bit disgruntled because he's lost a place to Stephen Daly right now, though, although Daly's now back behind him again. They go one way or the other. No apologies, he's not. I'm looking at the wrong Elantra, but it's just so quick how drivers can gain and lose places in this racing, and that's just why it's so entertaining as a driver, sometimes stressful, I have to say, but it's so entertaining for us here in the commentary box and for everybody watching.
Yeah, it's especially risky going for any sort of move when you have these big long chains of cars, because if you get it wrong, then you're not going to only lose your opportunity of gaining one position, but you're going to lose potentially multiple, as that's the way things go here in this series. But there's McFarlane and Blackwell side by side in towards Zambarello, and well, that's excuse me, Blackwell and McFarlane, shall we say. Blackwell's going to try and come back at him on the way into Villeneuve here, but McFarlane taking the middle of the road. Pretty good option down into there. Just really limits the opportunities that Blackwell has to try and come back. And he's now safely enough ahead into Tosa that he doesn't have to worry.
Whoa.
And now Jürgen Frank can try and send it around the outsides. Meanwhile, Blacker not only loses one spot, potentially loses two here on the in the battle in the train for the pack of 3 for second place.
Yeah, Schlacker now down into 4th, but he's still got quite the advantage in the AM class. He's got Corentin Guinez and then a couple of seconds between himself and Stephen Daly. So as long as he keeps this tidy, and when Corentin Guinez inevitably gets up to him, because Corentin Guinez is just inevitable, I think he just needs to make sure he lets him through in a place where he's not going to lose too much from it and just use the slipstream to his advantage. So maybe even down into Rivazza, he could let him go and then try and stick with him down the straight and not make a move. We're looking right here, though, at Wojciech Savidovic, and to be honest with you, he's been one of my drivers of the race, or drivers of the evening, you know. He's been a real under-the-radar performer tonight, and he's just been solid. He's been there all the way through. The incident earlier was not his fault, in my opinion, and he's just constantly rising up the order, race after race, and he's right now behind James Holman and hoping to get second place outright, maybe even a win with Dominic Kortum at the front of the field, because there's still 6.5 minutes left to go here.
Indeed there is. Jürgen Frank and that's going to be Dan Blackwell going side by side. I might be having a few problems at the moment, so take it away, Chaz.
No worries at all, mate. No worries at all. Side by side we go then, down the start-finish straight towards Tamburello. Ross McFarlane in front of Stephen Daly. That's an extra roadblock now for Stephen Daly in the way that he wants to catch up with Stefan Schlacker. And Stefan will be a little bit more relieved, if he knows that is, that Ross McFarlane has got in front. Stephen Daly's now got even more cars lining up behind him. We look here, though, at Ankerson with Blackwell behind him, and then Steen Ledger one position back. Blackwell looks down the inside, nothing doing this time round for him. This is a pro driver under attack from an AM, and then another pro behind that at the moment, so it's all feisty stuff between the three of them. Up towards Piratella we go once more. And this is Pete Newman stuck in his own battle as well, right in front of him. We've got the white and orange Elantra sideways through the corner. Craig Williams tries to go around the outside, uses all the AstroTurf and a little bit more to swoop around, then have the inside line for Aqua Minerale. Manages to make it stick, hard on the brakes. There's smoke ahead. And he's managed to just about hold on. Scary, scary moment up there, isn't it, Connery, when you're going down the hill into Aqua Minerale and trying to slot back into position.
Yeah, it is. It's because, you know, you're not going to necessarily be guaranteed a space to slot back into, and sometimes, you know, across that section you are a little bit of a passenger as well. So it's yeah, very, very sketchy indeed. Inside the final 5 minutes of this race, now there's the Audi of Craig Williams, very firmly placed in this train here down in E17 for the moment. Gaining a couple spots in this particular lap. Was 19th at the start of the last lap, so it's been a decent one for Craig Williams. Heading his way across the line now, in amongst this big gaggle of cars. Having a look further forward, because Schlacker's lost another place, I believe. Yeah, he has to Corentin Guinez, and he kind of let that happen, just as you mentioned, Chaz.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's so tough to try and plan your race out as an AM driver, because you know that the pros will eventually come past, and you've got to just make sure that you can let them through in a place where you don't lose as much time to your competitors, especially when you're ahead of everybody else in the class. Schlacker in 5th position is still doing a very good job at the moment. He's still got one car between himself and Stephen Daly, and a bit of daylight as well. But there's no daylight between Wojciech Savidovic and James Holman. Wojciech puts his nose down the inside. Holman tries to close the door. It's very close through Piratella. The two Elantras glued together as they make their way back down the hill He's not going to try too hard at this point, is Savidovic, because I think he's got some belief still that him and Holman can catch up to Dominic Cortum, who's leading this race outright, and potentially have a battle for the lead onto the final 2 laps. We've got 3 minutes and 10 seconds left. We should still get 2 laps of this race, I'm reckoning, as we get into Variante Alta. Once more, Flipper spit it out. But look behind them. Corentin Greenez is suddenly part of this lead quartet.
He's not going to... well, I was going to say he's not going to get up to the race lead, is he? But then again, when shouldn't ever doubt the driver of the 888 there. So I will just keep myself silent for now, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, we've got very limited time left in this race to go. And Cortum's race lead not entirely secure. He's been sort of managing the gap a little bit at around that 6 to 7 tenths of a second mark. However, that can be all gobbled up in relatively quick succession here. And we'll have to see if he is able to hold on to a race win. Here comes Savidovic though, but angling towards the inside. Kines, with an opportunistic move, a very hopeful move around the outside. He's actually lost him a bit of time getting the slide on there. So it allows Savidovic to breathe a little bit more, to try and focus on trying to get past that RD Sim Sports car ahead of him. Holman's had a fantastic race so far, and a podium finish for him will still be a relatively good day at the office. But Savidovic is trying his damnedest to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, Savidovic has got only 2 podiums all season so far, and it's quite odd to see that that's all he has in terms of a tally, to be honest with you. He is up there in the championship in 6th position, but he is some 151 points off the top spot, and I mean, anybody knows that is a hell of a margin to be down by from the championship leader, and that championship leader is right behind him on the road now, just waiting for a maneuver, waiting for a mistake. It's great patience being shown by Corentin Greenez. He pushed through a little bit earlier on, but he knew he had to do that because Ross McFarlane stuck right with him as well. But this whole train is getting closer and closer together now. It's now a quintet as they go through Variante Alta right then left, I should say. Flipping heck, Chaz. And then they finally make their way back down to Rivazza. One more lap after this one, Connery.
Indeed it is, and the gap has come down for the race lead, so Holman might have the opportunity to go for glory here. He's been playing the defensive game pretty much for the last couple of laps with Savidovic's attempts on him, but now he has the chance to press forward and potentially get this race win. It will be, of course, 1 lap to go with around about 35 seconds left remaining in the race. Cortum feeling the need to try and swerve across the circuit to try and break the slipstream as best as possible, but Holman's reeling him in. Not going to be close enough to make a move on the brakes into Tamburello, but Guinness sends himself down the inside of Savidovic as they get into a little bit of a tangle as Guinness gets himself out into the gravel and the grass, going to have damage to that car as well. That has not ended at all well, and Schlacker's actually gained the spot on Guinness there as he sails by on driver's right-hand side. But it does mean now it's pretty much a 2-horse race at the very front of the field. There's Guinness trying to get back down the inside of Schlacker. Schlacker will potentially let that happen as they head their way on the exit of Tosa, although he's potentially going to come back at him through the exit, depending on how damaged that Corentin Guinness is. But back towards the race lead then, because it is going to be Cortum versus Holman for this final lap. It's Full Send Racing versus RD Sim Sports for a race win here in race 3 at Imola. Through Acquaman Minerale they come. Dominic Cortum has led from pretty much the top of the green flag here. He did start 3rd, but got that 1st position early on. James Holman, he started in 7th place. He's clawed his way through this field as well. Ross McFarlane, he's on the outside looking into this, so if this ends in tears, then potentially we might be looking at a Ross McFarlane win instead. But here comes James Holman then, potentially down towards the inside at the first Rivazza. It's the outside for this little right-hand kink. It becomes the inside. He has to make sure he doesn't overcommit on the brakes. Cortum's defended that very, very well indeed as well as Ross McFarlane. Now here's the onboard with him. He's going to lose a little bit of ground on the exit of the corner. It's going to be a bit of a drag race here between all 3 of them. I think Cortum might have the legs. As Holman pulls out, he doesn't have the side draft. It means that Cortum takes the race win here at Imola for the 3rd time of asking. Full Send Racing get on to the top step of the podium, but what a good attempt that was for Holman to try and get himself up onto the top step. That was fantastic. By the way, Stefan Schlacker, AM class winner, great in terms of his championship hopes, but that was the top 3 covered by, well, almost 1.5 tenths of a second across the line.
That was phenomenal. Epic finish as well, and well called, Connery. Lovely stuff to have all the 3 of them going at each other like that and to keep the composure. Here's Damien Owen Harris finishing the race. That's the first time Cortum's even been on the podium overall this season, and he does it by going on to the top step. Second podium of the season for Holman, and that is the 8th podium of the season for Ross McFarlane. Stefan Schlacker takes a win in the AM class. That's the second time he's done it this season, and his 9th podium finish. Second place went the way of Stephen Daly. That's 3 podiums for him this evening in the AM class, taking him up to 7. Really good night at the races for him. And Dan Blackwell got his 2 first podiums of the season this evening as well. Can you tell I've been making notes?
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Fantastic to see. We'll get ourselves the unofficial race results then from race 3. Dominic Cortum with his first race win here in the World Touring Car Series. There's a way to do it, though, isn't it? By 62 thousandths of a second over James Holman, with Ross McFarlane on the podium as well. It is Full Send and RD SimSport that spoil the typical SimRC and Pure Sims party that we tend to have at the front of these things. Wojciech Swidovic in P4 with Quentin Guinness P5. Stefan Schlacker with a AM class win in P6 overall. Jürgen Frank P7 with Stephen Daly P8, Steen Ledger P9, and Anders Ankersen in P10. And we'll have a look at P11 with Esteban Rodriguez, Nathan Armes P12 with Neil Ferrier P13, Dan Blackwell P14 with Craig Williams 15th, Benjamin Gregory, Daniel Martin, Pete Newman, Adam Watson, and Jaroslav Sebula in at the bottom end of the top 20. Then we have P21 going to Konstantin Stolzenberg, then Rafael Drage there, or Rafał Drage, as I've been corrected by one of my Polish friends literally in this broadcast. Like Arabia P23 with JB Rushworth in P24. Then we have a run of VAM drivers, so P25 and back. So that's Sam Smith, Rob Sutherland, Scott Malcolm, Michael Blake, Sean Gardner, and Rob Turner, rounding at the top 30 overall. Then we've got Harry Fox, Damon Owen Harris, Jake Blackhall, and then Nick Clibbins as your final driver on the leading lap. Then we've got Neil Stevenson, P35, then retirements. Alex Torres, Mark Johnson, Morgan Butler, Jason Landry, rounding up the 39 car finishing results. So there we go. It's, Imola, signed, sealed, and delivered. And what a performance it was from Dominic Cortum to pick up his first race win of the season. And, well, we can speak to him right now here, Chaz. Dominic, that was an incredible race for you in that third race of the evening. Your first race win. How does it feel, mate?
Yeah, hello, everyone. Well, I wish I could explain it, but I literally can't. Phillip Island already it felt so close, but yet so far, and to somehow make this miracle happen on Imola, I have no idea how that happened today.
Yeah, it just seemed to all go your way. Of course, it got very, very close at the end there. Holman had a few tries. It got close at the line as well, with less than 1/10 of a second between yourself and James. How was the heart rate? Were you very nervous in that last lap?
Oh man, I can tell you, yeah. My heart rate is still up there. It's not as up, but whew. I also, I had 2 moments where I thought, okay, I'm gonna screw it for myself now, but I somehow managed to pull through. Also, big shout out to Stefan, who made some gaps behind me several times. I probably gotta buy him a beer or 2, maybe. But yeah, especially last corner, I trail braked so hard that I actually exceeded my usual slip angle, and that was very close to me binning it there, and I just somehow managed to snug my rear in front of his nose again.
Yeah, it was fantastic to see, well, the 3 of you at the front of the field on that final lap there. It could have gone to either of you in that situation. But what does this do for the team? Full Send Racing getting the race win here today. It must be a big boost for you guys.
Oh yeah, definitely. My Discord is already going crazy. I have pings everywhere. Yeah, especially since I'm the only full send car this season, I think this is like the guys can relate, and they are just as hyped as I am, probably.
Yeah, it was great to see, and it was very much all done on merit. Yes, you got yourself the good end of the reverse grid. You know that happens to people, but you know it's one thing to get that, and then another thing to hold on to it and improve positions as well. It was a great performance from you, and you should be absolutely proud of that. Is there anything you want to say before we move on to our other interviewees?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't know what to say to add on to that. I just knew as soon as I saw that I'm P3 reverse grid, I was like, oh no, I'm actually in danger, because pace-wise I might not be strong this night, but it somehow all worked. It all lined up. I don't know. It's a miracle.
Yeah, it's I can feel the happiness from here, Dom. But thank you very much for coming to speak to us, and well, hopefully you get a similar sort of performance in the coming races.
Yeah, thank you guys for the awesome broadcasts and everything, and maybe to the next interviews.
Yeah. Well, he's going to take over my job now. He's taken a race win, and now he wants to try and take over my my commentary. But well, we'll see Dom in a bit, and well, maybe in a couple of weeks' time if he does want to come in for an interview with us once again. Chaz, I don't think it's been a long time since I've seen someone as happy after the race as Dom was just then.
Oh, well, that's the thing. It still means a lot to these drivers. You know, there's always that phrase that's been going around for years now where people say that the racing isn't real, but the cars aren't real, but the racing is. I never get it right anyway. But to be honest with you, the emotion and the physical effort that goes into this sort of racing, it's what makes it worth it so much for drivers and for teams, you know, because it is so close to the real thing. You are doing the same physical inputs in turning the wheel, pressing the pedals, changing gears, doing what you need to do. There's the same mental strain as if it was the real thing, but obviously there isn't the fear factor, there isn't the payment if you break the car, and so on.
Yeah.
It's so close to the real thing, though, that it will feel like a monumental victory when you have that breakthrough. And it's great to see that from Dominic, because if I'm honest with you, I've watched a lot of very top-end sim racing series in the last few years, and the amount of drivers that look like miserable things when they drive, and they win a race. You know, they win a race in some of the biggest series in the world. I'd be ripping the light fitting off the roof. I'd be throwing stuff around the room. But they just have a straight face, and they just sort of like give the camera a thumbs up, and it's like, oh, put a smile on your face. And it's great to hear that from Dominic. Hats off to him.
Yeah, you know, this is why I wish we did cams for this race, because that would have been a good experience. But moving on, Chaz, if you want to take an interview, you can take the interview with Ben Gregory.
Do I have to?
Yes.
No, I'm joking. Hiya, Ben. It's great to have you in the box, mate. Not a bad night by all accounts for you, mate, because there was always a car either behind you or right in front of you. You had to get your elbows out a bit there, but it looked like fun.
Oh, your elbows are sore, mate, I think, after that one. I was getting a bit bullied as well by some of the fast guys going through, but yeah, relatively happy. At least I'm not out of the title fight. Steve has pulled a little bit more of a gap, and Stefan's had a bad first race and has come back again in the third race. So, yeah, it's I think the title's going to be quite interesting when it gets a bit closer to the end.
And that's what's great about this. You know, I was saying earlier in the broadcast that now you get to the halfway point of a championship. It's usually the point of reflection for a lot of drivers and teams, and how the first half has gone, and then what you can do going forward into the second half and how you can change that. Is there anything that you've sort of noticed or taken note of so far in your championship that you want to change or want to try and do going into the second half?
Honestly, I think I just need to be actually a little bit more defensive. I did quite well at Phillip Island by being a little bit more passive and like knowing where I could do it, but I think I need to be a little bit more, just a bit more like, no, I want to go for this spot. And also getting my car faster as well. I didn't feel, with the new update, I'm not too keen on how my car is driving, so I might need to do a bit of testing over the next week.
And what is it that you felt changed most about the car? I mean, is it in the way that it handles and the way that it like pushes out of a corner? What's the main difference for you?
Not as nice on the front end a little bit. It's just that on throttle push is a bit more severe. With my little piddly G29 and my spinny wheelie chair, it's kind of hard for me to hold on to some of the faster guys, I think.
Well, that's the thing. There is a big spread of talent in this championship, and it's always exciting to watch from up here as well. And I imagine it's exciting behind the wheel because you never know what the sort of pace difference is going to be between two drivers, because it's always different cars, different circuits, and very different scenarios. Are there any circuits that you're looking forward to for the rest of the season where you think you might have a slight advantage over others?
Not too sure. I know Detroit, next one, I'm actually quite excited about. I've always loved the street circuits, so hopefully I can do pretty well there. But the other one is Road Atlanta as well. Just those two, Detroit and Road Atlanta, I think they're big ones, really, for me.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you get on there, Ben. Thanks very much for jumping in and joining us, mate. Well done on your results tonight, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers.
Thank you very much, guys.
There we go then. Ben Gregory, he's been a teammate of mine for, well, we're not teammates anymore, but I was teammates with Ben Gregory back in 2015, the end of 2015. That's how long I've known about Ben racing on iRacing, and it's great to see guys like that still racing in touring cars and the same discipline we were teammates in back in the Kia days. Flipping heck, what a wagon that was. But it's just awesome to see these guys still racing. And like I said before, Wojciech Savidovic as well, you know, he was my driver of the night tonight, aside from Corentin Guinez, of course, who's just unbelievable. Wojciech was just so under the radar, so stable everywhere. I think it's good to see nothing's changed in about 7 years.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's definitely been around for a while, hasn't he? And especially in this sort of discipline with, like you said, the Kias. Back when that was the only option we had for a touring car style car. So yeah, that was it's great to see him, continuing to be up there and finding it out amongst some of the best in this sort of category of racing. But I don't think we have any time to get any more interviews done, because of course we had this long extended break between race number 1 and race 2. So unfortunately we won't be able to get any more interviews in. But however, you do want to stick around just a little bit longer, because I'll tell you about the next race event here in the World Touring Car Series. That is going to be at Detroit Belle Isle. So take touring cars, take the chaotic action that we've already had throughout this season, and put them on a street circuit. What could possibly happen there? Well, you'll just have to tune in here at RaceSpotTV on September the 22nd at 7:45 p.m. British summertime. Of course, that is 6:45 UTC. But from myself, Connery Maddock, from the guy over there, Chaz Draycott, that's the end of our broadcast here on RaceSpot for the World Touring Car Series. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Belle Isle.